Welcome, everyone. This is your friend, the DN What If, here with another exciting fanfiction. Today, we're diving into the story of What If Deku Was Born a Siren? If you enjoy this video, don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe for more fanfiction content just like this. Now, let's get started with the fanfic. Somewhere deep in the sea, crushed by salty water and strangers to the sun, creatures lurked. Shining fins, muscled arms, mysterious nature. Mere people. Nobody knew how they came about, nor how their society functioned. Whispers made their way around the world about what they were capable of, fear creeping into the crevices of human society. Their tales soon changed, from deep monsters that seduce humans to their deaths to grand utopian sand spires and the gift of magic. But this tale is not about humans, nor mers. Sirens are classified as a subspecies of mare well known for their dangerous voices. They have the ability to lure sailors, fish, and even mers to them, which often means death due to their brutal nature. They're classified as extremely dangerous, and as such, are often viewed with wariness and outlawed from the colonies. Thankfully, they have no capacity of magic, nor the speed of a typical mare. Differences in appearance between mers and sirens include diamond-shaped pupils, retractable webs between fingers, gills on the neck instead of the side, 5-pointed tails, unnatural voices, sharp shark-like teeth. If you see a siren, steer clear. They are not mers. They're monsters. Izuku Midoriya closed the book and let out a sigh, murmuring to himself. They couldn't have been even a bit nicer? Sirens are scary a lot of the time, but we're not monsters. And having propaganda like this is really harmful, because it's common and available to everyone, which means that everyone is going to see it. The green-tailed siren gently but the end of his thumb, stifling his mutter of, "Not like they don't already think I'm a monster." "Izuku? Honey? Are you all right?" Inko peeped her finned head through the entryway and Izuku quickly placed his hands over new bruises along his arms. "I'm good." He put on his brightest smile before she could comment on anything. "What's for dinner tonight?" "I'm starving." "I don't want to worry you. You deserve better." Tashinori. Tashinori looked up and mustered up a smile. "Scotchy, what seems to be the issue here?" "I've received word about a siren near the UA Spires. He doesn't seem to be a problem yet, but all the sources I've talked to tell me that he's a troublemaker. Always starting fights with others, stealing, a real bad apple. He's on the wrong track, but if anyone can talk him out of it, you can." Scotchy kept it brief, but there was a tone behind his voice that said, "Be careful." Tashinori nodded thoughtfully. "I'll see to it. Can you give me information as to his whereabouts?" Monster. Izuku's heart caught in his throat as a couple teenage mers approached him. "Look, Kikuko. It's Deku. Let's have some fun with him." "What is he going to do? Sing at us?" "Evil, luring, horrible. Please stop. Make us. Not like you can do anything, freak." Izuku was barely aware of the arms he had raised in front of his face in preparation as a booming voice called out. "What seems to be the problem here?" His tormentors shared a glance, stopping for long enough that Izuku could get a clear look at the man. He almost wished he hadn't, because his head reeled the moment he caught sight of the mare's beaming smile. All Might, the king of the most revered mare colony in the Seven Seas. Izuku's idol. What was Izuku doing again? "Help! Deku attacked us." He lured Kikuko in with his evil song. "But I didn't dash." "Stop lying, monster. You were going to hurt me, just admit it." Before Izuku could say anything else, Tashinori spoke up once again. Now, we can settle this civilly. Run along, I'll deal with this." Dread settled deep in the siren's stomach. Once the two mers were far enough away, All Might placed a hand on the boy's shoulder. "Did you really mean to hurt them?" "Oh, honest, I was just trying to go home." It was a moot point, really. No one ever believed Izuku. Not his old friends, not his teachers, not adults, and certainly not All Might. The muscled man nodded lightly. "Does this often happen?" Katsuki's voice rang in his head. "Don't tell anyone, or it'll be worse next time." "Sometimes." It's not just blaming for me for things. Izuku held his arm out gently to let the man inspect his arm, full of bruises and starburst burns. It's not good. I see. Well, I'll be honest, it seems like you've been mistreated your whole life, young man. He sat down next to the young Siren, a frown on his face. They beat you down when you didn't deserve it. I understand how that feels. How about I tell you a secret for this? You told me your secret, so, a secret for a secret. Izuku blinked and looked at All Might eyes wide. Really? In a poof of smoke, the man deflated into a skeletal version of himself, making Izuku start. All Might. All Might let out a slightly thinner, but still loud, laugh. Feel free to call me, in this form, young man. A gnarled scar ran down his side, making Izuku wonder exactly where he had obtained it, but the Siren didn't dare ask. All right, Yagi, sir. All Might Yagi smiled gently. Now, to get down to the real point I wanted to give you. Those Sirens may not have an inborn gift of magic, they are able to learn it. I have a few spells that I know, and I was wondering if you might want to learn them. If not for now, for the future. Izuku didn't hesitate to nod fervently. Yes, please. I mean, yes, please, sir. Yagi ruffled his wild green curls. I understand. I must get back to work, but meet me at Dagoba Shore tomorrow. Okay. It was barely a squeak. For once, Izuku was looking forward to waking up the next day. Izuku was up bright and early the next morning, his enthusiasm returned and unable to be quelled. A single phrase reverberated in his head like an echo in a cave. All Might is going to teach me magic. All Might is going to teach me magic. All Might is going to teach me magic. It was like a dream. And quite frankly, it seemed like a trick. Izuku wasn't dumb, no matter how much others told him he was. He knew that good things didn't come to him. It was a ruse or a mistake or a lie. But at the same time, he wouldn't know until he tried, right? So Izuku found himself at Dogboa Shore, patiently waiting until All Might either showed or he could be sure it wasn't a trick. Time seemed to go by as quickly as a sea slug's crawl, but sure enough, a mare larger than life, even in his small form, approached in the distance. Young Midoriya. Good morning, my boy. Yagi grinned. It seemed so genuine, Izuku wanted to believe it. Good morning, sir. The young Siren bowed gently. No need for formalities, son. The man chuckled. Izuku flushed with heat and muttered an apology that Yagi quickly brushed off. No need for that. Now, shall we get started? I have a question? Of course. What is it? Can Sirens even learn magic? I thought it was impossible. I tried. A lot. Izuku's mind circled back to the majority of his childhood, where he tried to summon up even an ounce of mare magic. It was always futile. I'm positive they can. Between you and me, my boy, I'm quite a lot like you. Izuku blinked. What? I'm half Siren as well. What? Yagi laughed, seemingly amused by his student's reaction. Of course, my heritage is more recessive than yours. I don't have the call, nor do I have the physical attributes, but I was never quite able to perform inborn magic. But, you've done magic before. And it's really powerful. How is that not inborn? The young Siren's eyes were wide with shock. That's your first lesson. Good learned magic isn't recognizable from birth magic. The lesson stuck. Izuku would wake up at the crack of dawn and make his way to Dogboa, where he would wait for Yagi. The two would go over theory, technique, or simply practice. Each day, Izuku felt a little more real. Toshinori looked around the well-lit shore, unable to quell his worry. Usually, his protege was on time, even early to his lessons. But today, there was no sign of the boy. The mayor was considering canceling when a flash of green caught his eye. Sorry, I'm late. Izuku stuttered, his green eyes cast down and dilated in shame. I didn't mean to waste your time. It's no trouble. What seems to be the issue? Toshinori's eyebrows furrowed. Another mayor. He saw me, practicing and the boy gripped his arm in a white-knuckled grip, It's really my fault. I should have gotten the hint. My boy, what makes you think any of this is your fault? People don't like when I'm stronger than them. It was barely a whisper. It makes them think that if a good-for-nothing like me can do it, then they're inadequate. They don't like that. Yagi knew that Mers could be mean. Horrible even. But there was nothing like seeing an innocent Siren beaten down for nothing more than trying to prove his worth made the man sick to his stomach. He didn't call attention to it, but his eyes were drawn to the large, blistering, starburst-shaped burn on the Siren's shoulder blade for the rest of the day. Good job, my boy. Now that you have the basic skills mastered, I think it's time for a proposition. Yagi ruffled Izuku's hair, but his tone quickly turned serious. A proposition? What kind? The young Siren tilted his head lightly, confused. I have a spell that I'd like to share with you. However, it's quite a responsibility. Yagi put a hand on his chin, sunken eyes thoughtful. I only offer to share it because I know that you're truly responsible and kind-hearted. Izuku squeaked at the compliment, but didn't interject. Its name is One for All. It's the magic that I use when I protect my colony, and, if used masterfully enough, it looks exactly like inborn magic. The man paused. However, even if you do accept, you'll need to do a hearty amount of training. Training? Like what we already do. In spirit, my boy, you're correct. But the use of One for All is extremely taxing on the physical body, and, if the vessel isn't strong enough in body, well... Izuku tilted his head. Well? You might lose a limb or two. The Siren let out a strangled sound of shock, his diamond-shaped pupils narrowing rapidly. But don't worry. It won't come to that. Yagi quickly tried to reassure his student. After a good amount of calming later, Izuku murmured assent. I think I want to take up the mantle of One for All. Even if the consequences if used improperly are really as bad as you said, even if I lose every limb in my body trying, I'll regret it forever if I denied a chance like this. A grin lit up Yagi's face. I'm glad to hear it. In that case, let's start our training as soon as possible. Izuku looked over the plan his mentor had created for him, guilt swirling in his chest. It felt so unfair that out of all the fish in the sea, he was the one chosen. He, the Siren who couldn't lift a finger to defend himself. He, the boy who was so socially incompetent that he wasn't sure when someone was being friendly or hostile. He, the hybrid with an extremely annoying muttering problem. So why had All Might chosen him? Of course he was grateful, but the feeling of inadequacy deep in his gut whispered that he would end up disappointing the man who had put so much trust in him, intentional or not, because that's just what he did. Izuku was undeniably a coward. And he knew that no matter what he did, he would never be someone worth Yagi's time. But that didn't stop him from trying. Toshinori was a bit surprised to find his successor arrive at the same time as him the next day, slightly winded, carrying a bag at his side. Good morning, young Midoriya. The mayor figured he wouldn't pry. After all, if Midoriya decided that he wanted to share, Toshinori would find out soon enough. Good morning, Yagi. The green-haired boy rifled through his bag. I bought something. For you. Mom cooked extra salmon and I thought you might want it since I've never actually in to hurt that salmon zatada gestansen seesaw that scary was wondering if I had problems with our stomach and dash. Midoriya devolved into muttering, face red. Toshinori was touched. If he hadn't thought of the boy as the son he never had already, well, he certainly was now. That's very thoughtful, my boy. You're quite perceptive if you manage to connect my scar to eating issues. Midoriya seemed to sag with relief. I knew it was a stretch, but I wanted to do something nice for you, since you're going out of your way to train a Deku like me. His voice wavered at the end, and Toshinori had the sudden urge to wrap the boy in a blanket and reassure him until the Siren knew how much he was worth. To Toshinori's credit, he managed to restrain himself. Young Midoriya, that's my student you're talking about. Be kind to him. Midoriya blinked. Huh. Instead of explaining, Toshinori went on. In fact, he's quite the student. Empathetic, intelligent, and kind-hearted. I don't regret teaching him for a second. So I would appreciate it if you tried to view him in the same way. The siren seemed to understand. At least, that's what Toshinori hoped the tears at the corners of his eyes meant. At once, Midoriya rushed forward and enveloped Toshinori in a surprisingly strong hug, bubbly tears leaking out of his eyes. Thank you. It's no trouble, my boy. Alright, my boy. You've done amazingly, truly. Look at this shoreline. Yagi gestured to Dogboa, now free of the clutter that used to plague it. It's quite a feat. What happens now? Now, young Midoriya, you get one for all. Excitement welled up inside Izuku. He couldn't stop himself from wringing his hands in anticipation. Yagi noticed if his short chuckle was any indication. I apologize for the way it's transferred. His mentor winced, and before Izuku could say anything further, the man had already pulled a golden hair from his head. Eat this. What? Brightly colored magenta veins curled around Izuku's arm with a low whoosh as he turned on one for all. It was still so strange to think that he had magic now, after a life of powerlessness and longing. With a slight sigh, he turned it off, his mind wandering to the conversation with Yagi that he'd had earlier. I don't think it would be sensible to remain outside the colonies when you have magic now. The man had taken a place beside Izuku, eyes sunken but soft with fondness. What do you mean? I'm not a mayor, and sirens are banned from all colonies. I never had a choice to become a part of one. I still don't. Ah, but you forget that rules can be changed. Your information is outdated. I changed that rule once I came to power. Yagi had a knowing smile. But that's you. I can't dash. Just think about it, okay? You don't have to decide just yet, and if you prefer being out here, then I completely understand. But I urge you to consider the pros of joining UA. Izuku's lips thinned. He hadn't realized his arm had begun to sting. The boy turned his power off. As if I'm good enough to join UA. Oh no. What Yagi sees in me. He could have picked 1,000 different Murs, and all of them would be more talented and better suited to it than me. What a joke. A rumbling roar came from the open sea below him, off a steep drop-off barely ahead of where he was sitting. There was an unspoken rule that he shouldn't go past here, shouldn't go into physical and emotional danger, but as he launched off of the rocky seabed, the only thing that went through his mind was the need to save. Heartbeat thumping in his chest, Izuku swam as quickly as he could to the origin of the sound. Pinpricks of color caught his eye, and as they got closer, Izuku's heart dropped. A pink mare was doing her best to fight off a sea serpent. It was rather impressive, and would have been more so if it were any other creature. Serpents were cunning and ruthless creatures, able to outdo even most magic. And worse, they enjoyed playing with their catches. Those who died from an attack would suffer a long, painful death. As it was, the girl was losing, getting sloppier at dodging and counterstriking by the second. Finally Izuku got close enough, and with all his intent, aimed a melody at the beast. Go away, leave be your prey. Leave the innocent be, listen to this plea. Go away, go now, go far, and don't delay back to where you once were. He sang until his voice was hoarse, and then grabbed the girl's hand, leading her into the kelp tangles to wait out the beast, just in case it came back. The great thing about the kelp was that pursuers often got lost in its swaying depths or caught up in the vines. It was a useful trick, and one that Izuku wished he hadn't learned from personal experience. The siren collapsed in the sand, panting from adrenaline and exertion. The stranger did no such thing, instead turning on him with a look in her eyes that Izuku had rarely seen before, much less directed at him. Admiration. That was amazing. Huh? That? Why would I be mad? You saved my life. I thought I was a goner for a sec there. The brunette had a large grin on her face. But I'm a siren and dash. And? It doesn't matter to me. I can't really afford to be picky about who saves my skin. She held out a hand. I'm Achiko Uraraka. What's your name? Izuku Midoriya. He thought for a second. Why are you out here anyways? Not that you don't have the right to go anywhere else, but... Sorry. Uraraka giggled, the pink marks on her cheeks shifted by the weight of her smile. No prob. One of my classmates asked me to go grab something for them and I got a teensy bit lost. She shrugged. All's well that ends well. Kiri can grab it himself. Oh, you must be from UA then. Izuku ignored the sour feeling that welled up inside him. He had no right to be upset. He turned that opportunity down already. That was the end of it, so it didn't make sense to linger on it. Yep. How'd you know? It's the closest colony to here, and you mentioned a class, which is one of its most known features, so… That's so cool. I bet you're really smart. Do you have anyone to take you back? The Siren quickly changed the subject, and to his gratitude, Uraraka latched onto it. Nope. Mind if you come with? I don't want to run into trouble, and also, it's not every day you meet a new person. She grabbed his wrist and started swimming as if it were the most natural thing to talk with him. So, Midoriya, what's your favorite color? Mine's pink. Red. Their small talk continued until they got to UA. Izuku wanted to be careful about the stranger, but she seemed so genuine that he couldn't help the happiness that bubbled in his chest. Too soon for his liking, the two arrived at the towering sand spires that made up UA. A black anglerfish mare met them at the entrance. Uraraka, that was extremely reckless. You are to tell a teacher whenever you venture out that far. You're lucky that Kirishima had the sense to notify me when you were gone too long. For now, you're off the hook, since you didn't know, but there will be punishment next time, understood? The man had flowing black hair and a long, thin scarf bunched around his neck. His red eyes were piercing, sending a shiver down Izuku's spine. Understood, Mr. Aizawa. Uraraka didn't seem daunted. As for you, the teacher Aizawa's eyes met Izuku's too soon for the latter's liking, but they quickly softened. Thank you for escorting her back. My students do some problematic things, but it's good to know that she didn't run into too much trouble. Uraraka filled the silence while Izuku was thinking about what to say over his panic and surprise over an adult that didn't hate him for doing nothing. Actually, about that. Aizawa's lips thinned. Yes. I might have run into an, sea serpent? And Midoriya saved me? You what? He didn't seem surprised, just annoyed. How did you two even get away? Izuku finally managed to stutter out a response. Well, I'd imagine it has something to do with you being a siren? The boy let out a little eep of surprise. Yes. Sorry, Don't get me wrong, I don't mind. You saved one of my students, and for that, you should be given a chance. I'll be frank, Midoriya. The way you acted today was heroic. That's more than can be said of most MERS. Yagi has talked about you, and at first I was hesitant, but there's no doubt you should be recommended for this colony. What? But I could be anyone, and you don't even know me and You were already good enough to join before. I don't doubt anything now that it's entirely your choice, but you should have the chance to join. Now, Uraraka, we should make our way back to the Spires. Aizawa turned away simply, leaving a flabbergasted Izuku gaping behind him. The siren managed to choke out one more sentence. Uraraka? Could you not mention that it was a siren that saved you? I don't, want to be known like that. Uraraka gave him 2 thumbs up, grinning wide. Izuku couldn't believe this. He couldn't believe UA had accepted him, he couldn't believe that he'd agreed, he couldn't believe that he'd gone along with it the entire way. This had been his dream, ever since he was young, and now that he was doing it, it felt unreal. Hey! A voice called out to him in the distance, and Izuku flinched. The siren whirled around. His viridian eyes met bright crimson, and for a second, they looked dauntingly familiar. His heart stopped. What kind of karma did I have in my last life, that my tormentor is the first one I meet at the start of a new prospect? This is it. This is where I die. Kakin is going to kill me for this. Dude, are you okay? I didn't mean to startle you so bad. Suddenly, Izuku could breathe again. I'm alright, I get startled easily. He smiled sheepishly, which the stranger returned tenfold. Gee, you looked like you had a heart attack for a second. Izuku gently chuckled, letting his eyes wander. Why, yeah. Nope. It was certain, the gods hated him. Right beside the friendly redhead was a glowering blonde, The exact opposite of what Izuku wanted to see right now. He raised a hand in greeting, already planning his gravestone. Hi, Kaken. Katsuki's glare upped in venom by about 100 times. Meanwhile, the friendly mare looked between them. Wait, you two know each other? That's awesome. It'll save time on introductions. Hi, I'm Ijiro Kirishima. This is our resident pufferfish, Bakugo Dash. I'm not a goddamn pufferfish Dash. But I'm sure you already know that. Gee, I never knew he would allow someone to call him a cutesy nickname like Kaken. I don't, he's annoying as fuck and uses it anyways. Keep telling yourself that, bud. Katsuki physically growled, and Izuku felt himself inching back. Am I? Izuku Midoriya. Good to meet you. I'm new here. You're the dude who saved Uraraka, right? Which colony are you from? I'm not from a colony, actually. Kirishima gasped, as if Izuku had admitted to slaying a monstrous sea serpent. Never been in a colony? Dude, there are humans out there. Or even worse, sirens. Izuku's heart dropped. I've never seen one in person, but the way they're described, those things are terrifying. At least you never have a chance of seeing one in these colonies. All might drop that rule, but I don't think any are friendly enough to be allowed in. Heck, even if it was friendly enough, with that voice? I'm not sure I would trust it. Come to think of it, have you ever seen one? Every word was like acid on Izuku's skin, but he grinned through it, misery welling up in his chest. Not like Kirishima could tell. Katsuki was smirking, meeting the siren's eyes dead on. And not really? I don't know. Izuku tried to make it sound convincing. After all, his father left before he could remember, so he'd never technically met a full siren. It's probably for the best. Hey, by the way, what kind of mare are you? I don't think I've ever seen a tail with those fin patterns before. Kirishima waited patiently for an answer. Izuku saw Katsuki open his mouth, and all thoughts stopped as he blurted out, "Glowfish." Why, yeah, I'm a glowfish. Well, half glowfish. My dad's a betta, so I kind of inherited some of his fins. Kirishima nodded, and suddenly, Katsuki's glare was deadly. The blonde lunged forward and grabbed his wrist in a forceful hold, light explosions blistering Izuku's skin. The siren tried not to let his expression contort. I think you and I need to have a talk, Deku. You fucking liar. Katsuki let Deku's wrist go and shoved the other boy to the ground, snarling. What the fuck was that? Deku had the nerve to stutter out. Dash. Shut the fuck up. God, I should kill you for this. First, you have the nerve to invade my life at all with your uselessness, then you come to my colony? What a fucking joke. Kaken Dash. And since when was your dad a betta? Last time I checked, he was just as much of a freak as you. Kaken Dash. I'm not fucking done. Give me one goddamn reason why I shouldn't go back there and tell Shitty Hair what you really are right now. The nerd practically sobbed. He would hate me. Kaken, I wasn't born lucky like you. People, they don't give me chances. I know the truth will come out and I know it will hurt, but if I don't do this, nobody will ever give me a chance. They'll just look at me and think Siren, but I'm more than that. Katsuki snorted. Whatever. I don't have time for this bullshit. I'll keep your stupid secret on 3 conditions. Deku had the sense to look desperate. At least he knew that Katsuki was the one with the power. Anything. First, stay the fuck away from Kirishima. Second, stay the fuck away from me. Third, never, and I mean never use your stupid fucking brainwashing around me. The blonde held up one finger for every point. Got it? The siren nodded fervently, shaking. Good. Izuku was slumped over the sand, covered in burns, scratches, and bruises. Bubble tears slipped past his fingers and rose to the surface far beyond. His quiet sobs weren't loud enough to tip off his tormentors. The little siren was so caught up in his misery that he didn't notice a mare approach him. A quiet voice piped up. Hey, are you okay? Izuku yelped and backed up, shaking. Don't hurt me. His breaths were wild and erratic as he passively took in the other person. The stranger had a broad yet young face, likely 1 or 2 years older than Izuku himself. His hair was swooped up in an undercut, and he had surprised brown-amber eyes. His tail was short and craggy, full of divots and irregular spikes. "I didn't mean to startle you. I'm not gonna hurt you." The small green-haired boy felt thankfulness swoop inside him. Thank you. Who are you?" "My name's Kuwahara. What about you?" "I'm Midoriya. And, before you say anything, I'm a Siren. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to trick you. I understand if you take back your offer." "Why should that matter to me?" Izuku blinked, his face lighting up against his will. Kuwahara started sticking by him after that. He'd never step in when the bullying got too bad, but it didn't matter to Izuku. He deserved it for being a Siren, and he was eternally grateful to Kuwahara for even tolerating his presence. "Hara." Kuwahara looked lazily back. "What's up, Midoriya?" "I wanted to know if you'd be free to come over to my place later. I mean, I told Mimamabidi when Shigariste Hatsu wants to meet Iwan dash." "No." The mayor's orange-brown eyes held mild annoyance. "What?" I said no. "I'm busy." "Oh, maybe tomorrow then." "Busy then too." Izuku bit his lip, weighing the consequences of annoying his friend to the ability to spend more time with him. "What about Dash?" "No. Stop asking." Kuwahara's voice was loud and unfriendly, causing Izuku to shrivel back. But it wasn't Kuwahara's fault, no. It was entirely the Siren's. He'd been annoying and clingy, he deserved to be yelled at for that, even if it caused tears to prick at his eyes. The other boy started to swim away, leaving Izuku with a gaping feeling in his chest. "Hara, I didn't mean Dash. Get lost." "I'm sorry." "Whatever. See you tomorrow." Izuku's smile returned. Kuwahara still wanted to see him, even after he'd been so annoying and pestered the mayor relentlessly. What a good friend. Sometimes Kuwahara's smiles were forced. Izuku didn't understand it. Maybe that's just what friends did sometimes, but Izuku could have sworn that Katsuki's smiles weren't as tense. Maybe because Katsuki didn't know Izuku was a Siren. In that sense, Kuwahara was more of a friend than Katsuki had ever been. Still, it was scary when the craggy mayor's dark amber eyes were cold and annoyed, staring at him with what seemed like barely restrained hatred. And then he would blink and it would go away. Oh well, it probably didn't mean anything. Izuku was just sensitive. Izuku and Kuwahara were lounging in silence one day when Izuku noticed something out of the corner of his eye. "Kuwahara, look. It's a stonefish like you." The short, partially camouflaged fish was utterly still, giving no sign of life. A lobster slowly made its way nearby, and before Izuku could blink, the reef stonefish struck, rendering the lobster incapacitated. The red creature seized then fell still. "Wow!" Izuku gasped, stars in his eyes. "Kuwahara, do you have that venom? Have you ever used it? I bet it could be really helpful for a surprise attack." The older boy sighed. "Yes, I have the toxin. It comes from my spines, and I can regrow them and control the level of poison and pain with my magic. I've used it 1 or 2 times. Are you done yet?" "That's so cool. I'd love to see it in action someday." "Hi, Midoriya, come here. I want to show you something." Kuwahara gestured with his hand and a short tilt of his head. "K coming. I just have to dash." It's time sensitive." His voice was a slight bit darker, but Izuku took no notice. "HM? Lead the way." The older boy led the way. And Izuku followed like a fool. The trip was spent in relative silence. Eventually, Kuwahara came to a stop in front of a large sea trench, the bottom just barely decipherable in the dim light. "Here we are. It's pretty far, it's gonna take a while to get back. And what's special about it?" Izuku tilted his head as he peered down the trench, back to his friend. "It's where you're finally gonna see my venom in action." A shark-like grin erupted on Kuwahara's face, and before Izuku could question what he meant, he felt a searing pain down his back, causing him to strangle out a cry. "You really thought I wanted to be friends with you?" Bakugo was right, you're dumber than you look." He felt his muscles lock up as he slowly drifted down, the pain more blinding and intense than anything Izuku had ever felt. Was it because of the pain in his chest, knowing he'd lost his only friend? Or did Kuwahara just hate him that much? Tears escaped his eyes as he gritted his teeth, struggling to try to swim up, to try to breathe, to try to do anything. Was that it? Was all that a lie? Was he going to die here? Alone? Without anyone caring? Izuku was only lucky he remembered his mother, or else he wouldn't have come back that day. Izuku awoke and sat ramrod straight, panting for breath and shaking. His eyes took in his unfamiliar surroundings. That's right. He wasn't back there. He was at UA, where he had friends. He let out a humorless laugh, more for his own sake than anything else. It was so dumb how he'd let Kuwahara shape him. And even now, years later, he'd still tremble around Mers who were kind to him. Nothing he'd ever do was enough for them, and he had to accept it. He was alone, and he would always be alone. Maybe someday, when he was healed enough, he might try once more to make a friend, but he didn't think he'd ever be able to relax entirely. Kuwahara would be the last friend he'd ever make. Izuku swam carefully around other Mers. It was odd, being able to blend into the crowd without being ostracized. Up ahead, he saw pale pink fins, and against his will, he felt hope in his chest. Uraraka. I'm glad you're safe. She turned and a wide grin split her face. Midoriya. You made it in. Yeah, I did. Izuku gave what he hoped was an agreeable smile. Ida, come here, I want you to meet someone. At Uraraka's call, a blue-haired mare with square glasses and an oddly polygonal face came up to meet them. He had a large fin across his back, no doubt to help with speed, and were those specialized fins on his tail? No doubt his magic was something to do with speed because, why yes, my magic does let me adjust my swimming speed. Ida nodded, causing Izuku to go red. He had been muttering. Pleased to meet you, my name is Ida. Sorry, bad habit. I'm Midoriya. Ida held out a broad hand, which Izuku hesitantly shook. I'm glad you have made it into UA, for that show of bravery in saving Uraraka was immense. I respect your drive and morals, Ida went on, but by that point, Izuku wasn't listening. It's not as if he disliked the blue mare, it was just strange. His heart was hammering in his chest painfully. If Ida knew what he could do, knew what he was, would he still be good-naturedly lecturing him? Midoriya. Uraraka waved a hand in front of his face. You zoned out for a sec there. Oh, yes, sorry. My bad. He paused, taking a deep breath. He can do this. I think I need to go. He can't do this. He didn't see the disappointment flick across Uraraka's face. All right. Good luck settling in. Thank you. Class Izatya came far too soon for Izuku's liking. Tremors ran down his spine as he swam to his doom, his class. This could be the moment that made or broke his charade of being normal. At any moment, Uraraka, Bakugo, or Aizawa could simply say he was a siren, and he would be done with. He couldn't allow that to happen. He couldn't do that again. Please All Might, just let me have one good day. He thought to himself. He just hoped that whatever was leading him along this awful path listened to his prayers. Shakily, he swam into the room and was immediately noticed by several pairs of eyes. Midoriya. I am glad to see that you could make it. Who's that? A new person? This late? Izuku opened and closed his mouth a few times, unsure of what to say. His reprieve came in the form of Aizawa. Leave the kid alone. He's a new student today and you will be introduced. For now, don't crowd him. You're making him uncomfortable. The black-haired mare looked unimpressed, glowering at his students, who complied, reluctantly. Thank you, Izuku murmured, wringing his webbed hands. Quietly, he caught the man's attention once more. Mr. Aizawa? Could you not mention Dash? You don't have to finish that, kid. I understand. Your kind aren't treated well. It would be rational to make a good first impression and then tell them later. Your secret is safe with me, just don't leave it like that too long, and don't blatantly lie. Izuku nodded once, hope swelling in his chest. This is Izuku Midoriya. He's a new student that will be joining you today. Treat him with respect and kindness. That is all. With that, Aizawa left, unintentionally leaving Izuku as the victim to the class's curiosity. Welcome to UA. A quiet voice from the other side of the room murmured, belonging to a boy with split red and white hair. What's your power? This time, it was from a boy with a lightning strike in his hair. Where did you live beforehand? I can't imagine not living in the colonies. A barely there silhouette of empty space that took the shape of a mare asked animatedly. It's good to have you here. A pink-skinned mare with strange yellow eyes grinned widely, placing an arm on Izuku's green-scaled shoulder. Why have you arrived so late in the year? A large, many-armed mare. It seems a little strange to me. Why is he so quiet? A girl with glossy black hair pulled up in a ponytail. She looked concerned. He flinched. There were too many Murs. All of which would hate him if they knew what he was. He had to leave. He couldn't stand the pressure of the pink-haired girl's arm. It is very unbecoming of UA students to overwhelm another with questions. Cease this at once. Ida chopped the water strictly, his body rigid. No, it's okay, I just kind of get uncomfortable with touching. But it's fine. It's okay. He was still relieved when the girl removed her arm with a sheepish smile. To answer the questions, I have strength magic and I came from the open oceans beyond Yuyum. I couldn't make it in until now, since I came from beyond, but dash. Another flood of questions came from the more curious ones, asking what it was like, how his magic worked, if he'd ever seen the dangers of the ocean. Izuku couldn't keep track. All he knew was that eventually he was saved by the bell. Thank goodness for that. What a nightmare, Izuku thought once he was safely in his room again. His room? In UA? The excitement didn't last long. They're gonna find out how weird and awkward I am, and then I'll never have a chance like this again. Let alone if they find out I've been omitting the truth. Hey, green kid. A purple-finned mare, whom Izuku faintly recalled as Jiro, called from outside the door. Izuku refused to let the panic in his chest show. What is it? He hesitantly opened it, half expecting a blow that never came. Do you play? The question was sudden. An instrument? I'm okay at singing, I guess, but dash. Jiro raised an eyebrow. Could have sworn you'd be the instrument type, but singing's okay too. Okay for what exactly? For a band, Jiro said, like it was obvious. It's a work in progress, but I figured I'd check if you were musical. You don't have to join, of course, but we don't have a singer. Izuku panicked. Maybe? I don't know, I'm not the good and dash. Dude, it's okay. I'm sure you're better than you're giving yourself credit for. I'm serious. You don't hear my singing. Jiro quirked an eyebrow in confusion. I don't see what you're so worried about. I mean, like, unless you're a siren or something, it's not really gonna do anything. I've heard bad singing before. So, that's the thing dash. Oh. Jiro's eyes widened. Well shit, sorry dude. Didn't mean to blow your cover. I assume you didn't tell because you don't want false assumptions. Izuku blinked. Then blinked again. No way there could be more than one understanding person here. Someone had to be faking it, and frankly, the siren didn't want to risk it. Warily he murmured, thank you. Uraraka and Aizawa know too, so, I guess you can talk to them about it if you still have doubts. The purple-haired girl grinned, then mimed zipping her lips. No worries. We're cool. Thanks for trusting me. Well, trust might be an overstatement, but Izuku nodded anyways. As soon as she left, he promptly closed his door and leaned against it, wheezing. Oh all might, what did I just do? Ida, have you seen my notebook? I haven't been able to find it and I'm kinda worried. Izuku was on edge. He was normally on edge, but this was different. He felt like he was being watched lately, and not in the obvious way that he usually was. The past couple of weeks of UA had likely been the best of his life. He felt a little bad about omitting the truth, honestly, but it felt so nice to be treated like a person, not some sort of leviathan or sea monster. Not that I can recall. Would you like me to help search? Ida adjusted his glasses as he spoke. He'd been a good friend, as far as Izuku could tell. Honestly, part of him wanted to take it as just that. Friendliness. Like he wasn't any different, like they were just two normal Mers having a normal conversation. Too bad they weren't. Bright crimson fins came into view before the Siren could speak. I can help too. Not to brag, but I'm pretty good at finding things. Warning alarms went off in Izuku's head as Katsuki's voice echoed in repeat. Stay the fuck away from Kirishima. Oh, it's really okay. I probably just misplaced it. Thanks though. Izuku hastily escaped the situation. Behind him, Ida and Kirishima shared a look. Somewhere in the distance, vermilion eyes bored into his skin with hatred. I don't understand. He keeps avoiding me for no reason. Did I do something wrong? He seemed okay with me when we met. Ijiro put his hands over his face in dismay, groaning. Katsuki raised an eyebrow, arms crossed. You're not missing anything. The nerd's annoying as fuck. Ijiro huffed. Okay, Blasty, I get you're not good with people, but you don't have to go that far. I actually want to know what I did wrong. He seems like a cool guy. He's fucking annoying. Don't lose sleep over this shit. Bakubro. Shitty hair. I'm being serious. Well, so the fuck am I? Katsuki glared at Ijiro. Katsuki. Stop. That finally made the lionfish mare pause. If you don't want me to rant, you can say, but don't act like this is no big deal. I'm actually upset, don't brush it off. Ijiro was glad when he saw Katsuki think for a second, grappling with his words. Eventually, the blonde conceded. Fucking fine. I'll talk to the bastard. Ijiro grinned wide and enveloped his friend in a large hug. Katsuki swore underneath his breath. He'd made a miscalculation, and that was fucking annoying. Now he had to interact with Deku more than he absolutely had to. The Siren jumped the moment he saw Katsuki. Of course he did. He was Deku, and that's what useless freaks like him did. I'll get out of your way, sorry. Deku smiled that stupid fake smile. Usually his terror would have made Katsuki satisfied, but right now, it just made him pissed off. Deku, we need to talk. The nerd looked at him as if that phrase was a death sentence. Not inaccurate considering their history. What about? You don't gotta avoid shitty hair anymore. But Katsuki reached out and gripped the green boy's shoulder tightly enough to bruise with a wolfish smile. Be prepared for the consequences if you try anything with him or hurt him. No fucking way was Katsuki going to let Kirishima be hurt. But he didn't have much of a choice in the matter, did he? All he could do was warn Deku about it and be prepared to follow through on his threats. Izuku let out a breath as Katsuki swam away. He'd gotten a bruise on his shoulder, sure, but now he was able to talk to Kirishima. Hope rattled in his chest, sending warm tingles down his spine to the tip of his tail. At least, until he felt eyes on his back, and all his euphoria vanished as soon as hit had come. He felt ready to cry. God damn it. Can't I have one victory? Whoever's been staring at me better have a good reason. Izuku whirled around bitterly, only to come face to face with Todoroki. All at once, confusion took bitterness's place. Todoroki didn't seem to notice. You, the dual-haired mare said quietly. Me. There's something strange about you. I can't quite put my finger on it. Izuku's heart leapt into his throat. Oh All Might, it's over for me. Are you the king's secret heir or something? Secret heir. He covered his mouth as his brain scrambled to make sense of it. Though the more he thought about it, the funnier it got. Despite his best efforts, he couldn't stop the giggles that slowly turned to full-blown laughter. No, that's another giggle escaped him. That's not how it is. There is something there, though? I've seen you around him quite a lot. The laughter died down, but it was nice to have his fears disproven. Ah, and not really? I mean, I can't say. Todoroki nodded solemnly. I see. With that, the tension was broken. So, secret heir. How did you come to that conclusion? Todoroki smiled lightly. It was quite pretty, if Izuku was being honest. I can show you my notes if you'd like. They quickly fell into easy conversation. Todoroki didn't seem like much of a talker, But Izuku was enough of one that it didn't seem to matter. The topic of conversation ranged from school to humans to magic. Izuku's stutter lessened the more comfortable he got with the bicolored boy. He almost forgot his notebook was missing. The lingering, creeping feeling didn't go away. The eyes never left him, no matter how frequently he looked behind him. Izuku asked his friends, but they hadn't seen anything and instead asked if he was feeling okay. He wasn't. "I'm feeling great. Though I don't think I slept enough," he'd reply. He figured a moonlight swim might clear his head and prove that nothing was following him. He was safe. Nothing was able to harm him as long as he had one for all. That didn't stop the chills that ran down his spine, getting increasingly more intense until, "Got you," a malicious voice called almost playfully. 4 fingers wrapped tight around Izuku's neck. Part of the enemy's magic? The Siren didn't know, and frankly he didn't want to find out. His instincts kicked in through the terror that flooded him. Good thing he'd had some practice. Rule 1, don't fight back. Izuku went limp in the stranger's grasp. The hand didn't let up, but he didn't really expect it to. At least nothing else was happening. "Izuku Midoriya. I've heard a lot about you. Seen a lot of it myself too. But I didn't think that you would be such a coward. Rule 2, don't protest." Izuku stayed silent, sharp teeth clenched painfully. The stranger growled. "I'm talking to you. Awfully rude to ignore me, isn't it?" The fingers tightened painfully around Izuku's gills, leaving him gasping for breath. Rule 3, show fear. Don't be silent. They'll hurt you more to make you respond. "Who dash?" Izuku took in a shallow gulp of seawater. "Who are why? Oh, how unfortunate. I forgot to introduce myself." Blue-gray hair came into Izuku's view. The stranger had piercing red eyes like Katsuki and grimy, crusty skin. There was a mole on his face and a scar on his lips. "My name is Shigaraki. Now that that's aside, I hear you're quite the magic analyst. Want to see a spell?" Rule 4, establish that they have the higher ground. Izuku laughed bitterly between gasps. At least Shigaraki had eased his grip a bit. "I don't have much of a choice, do I?" Shigaraki seemed pleased. "That's the attitude I like to hear. God, I hate the hero types who try to fight back and deny when they're in a bad position." He hummed lightly, as if he wasn't threatening someone's life, and picked up a rock from the ground. The moment all 5 fingers touched it, the pebble turned to silt on the current. Izuku could feel the hand on his neck get heavier. "Want to take a shot at analyzing it?" Rule 5, comply with requests. It's some sort of decay mom magic, right? By touching it with all your fingers, you can disintegrate it." "Impressive. You're spot on. And now you see why you can't sing yourself out of this situation. See, the moment you start, I'll put my last finger down, and we'll see how well you can sing with your windpipe turned to ash." Shigaraki grinned maniacally. Rule 6, avoid asking questions unless it seems like they want it. I see. Why do you want me? Good question. You're chock full of smarts, aren't you? Well, I seem to have found some information that might concern you. You see, I know about your secret, little Siren. Izuku's eyes widened. Rule 7, if you have a choice, take punishment, not leverage. That don't hurt me. I don't know what you want, but I'm not going to be blackmailed. Shigaraki hissed under his breath. Of course he ends up being a martyr. Just my luck. The hand tightened. Listen, kid. You're rational. Either you give me information on All Might or you end up being shunned. What would All Might think of you? What about your classmates? That 2-colored mare seemed quite fond of you. It would be a shame if he knew. Rule 8, don't involve others in your problems. You are lesser. You don't matter. It will only hurt worse. I don't care. Izuku's emerald eyes met Shigaraki's hate-filled crimson ones, and the elder crowed with bone-chilling laughter. You think I care about that? If you're not going to tell me, I don't plan on leaving any loose ends. Got any last words, kid? He didn't give Izuku any time to respond before he placed the last finger down. Didn't think so. Rule 9, take punishment without protest. Izuku's skin broiled with pain, as if it was being held to the sun itself. Another hand came down on his arm, and faintly, he heard screaming. Was it him that was making that sound? He couldn't tell. All he felt was pain, throbbing agony coursing through every vein. It stopped as suddenly as it started, though it felt like it had been hours. Faintly, he heard talking between Shigaraki and a deeper voice. An accomplice. Then, all was silent and still, except for the blood churning in the water above him. As he floated there, he dimly wondered if any sharks could smell it. Maybe it would shorten the time it would take to die. Rule 10. Treat all wounds when you arrive home. Keep your head down while leaving. Guess I won't be able to follow that rule today. Wish I'd been able to say goodbye. Izuku's consciousness faded as the sun started to rise above him. Midoriya. Shoto swam back to the spires with urgency. He didn't care about the dark sky, nor the storming currents. All he cared about was the body in his arms, slowly getting colder with every moment that passed. Midoriya lightly groaned. It was the only sign he was still alive. When had he started to care so much? When had his icy exterior been broken by the green-tailed mare in his arms? Perhaps green-tailed was incorrect. He was losing so much blood that his tail looked red. Shoto picked up the pace. "Recovery girl!" Shoto called out in desperation. For a few heartrending moments, he wondered if she'd even be in her office at this time. Midoriya wouldn't last even an hour without treatment, and Shoto wasn't willing to risk it. He called out once more. The door swung open. Relief swamped Shoto as Chiyo Shizenji, the healer of the Spires, appeared in the entrance. Without a word, she assessed the situation and took Midoriya in her arms. "Thank you for bringing him to me. He's in bad shape. Did you see what happened?" Just like that, Shoto recalled what he had seen. Shoto swam out of the Spires. It was suffocating in there. He'd rather be out in the early rays of dawn than cooped up inside a claustrophobic shelter with only his nightmare to keep him awake. The reefs gently glowed with pre-sunlight. He felt content. And then he heard the screaming. His instincts kicked in and he raced to the source, only to find a retreating man whom Shoto couldn't make out and Midoriya, hunched up and bleeding out of two places. Midoriya! The stranger looked back, and all Shoto could see were hateful red eyes before a portal swallowed the man. Izuku hurt. All over. That's the first thing he noticed when he came to about a day later. He let out a faint sound and gently opened his eyes, breathing shallowly all the while. "Don't try to swim." The woman's voice was firm. Izuku recognized it at once. Ms. Shizenji, often dubbed Recovery Girl, for her potent healing magic. "Your arm was absolutely mangled, and that's not even mentioning your wrecked gills. I barely managed to get them in working order. How in 7 seas did they get that way?" Memories came back to Izuku in a panic. He sat up, his breath was suddenly taken away. "Shigaraki!" The Siren couldn't even get the words out. I almost died and I was okay with it. Would anyone have noticed? Would anyone have cared? Why do these things always happen to me? What am I doing wrong?" A hand clasped his. "Midoriya. Look at me. You need to calm down. You're panicking." Izuku looked up to see two mismatched eyes. Todoroki looked unsure as if he was overstepping his boundaries. With a deep breath, Izuku forced his thoughts to a different subject. He forced the memories of his near-death Shigaraki and the never-ending question of if anyone would miss him into the back of his mind in the little box where it belonged, along with several other unpleasant memories. Kuwahara, Katsuki, all the abuse he'd endured throughout the years, the burns and scars on his arms, the nightmares every night, He shook his head to clear it and tried to force a smile. "Sorry, I'm okay." "You don't look okay." "Fine." Izuku tightened his grip on Todoroki's hand reassuringly. Before Todoroki could respond, Yagi burst through the door. A clear look of panic had settled on his face. "My boy, are you all right?" "Fine." Yagi let out a relieved sigh. "I'm glad. I was worried when I got the report that you'd, He gestured towards Midoriya. Todoroki awkwardly cleared his threat. "I'm just gonna go." Izuku blushed. "Sorry, we talk later?" He gently pulled his hand away from the other boys. I made him uncomfortable. Stupid. Yeah, that sounds nice. Todoroki lingered a bit, then swam out of the infirmary hastily. Izuku's eyes lingered on the back of his head until Yagi caught his attention once more. Sorry to interrupt you two's moment. It wasn't a moment dash. Conversation. However, we still need to discuss what happened. From what I heard, young Todoroki wasn't able to decipher the figure next to you. Yagi looked grim. Izuku felt bile in his throat. He didn't want to relive this. It was too new, too harmful, too horrible. But the voice in his head bit back. Stop being selfish. It's important information. They have to know. So, with much stuttering and more than a few tears, he recalled the experience. By the end of it, Recovery Girl and Yagi both looked horrified. This is a threat to UA. We need to be alert for whatever happens next. Thank you for telling us. It can't have been easy, but your sacrifice won't have been in vain. Recovery Girl nodded solemnly. You'll need to stay here for a couple more days, but after that, you can go free. Don't strain your body too much. A couple more serious conversations about Shigaraki later and Izuku was left completely alone. He fell into a dreamless sleep. It was impossible to say that Chio was having a fun time with all of this. The boy already came to her because of broken bones, and now he was almost killed by a villain? She didn't know what to think. On one hand, Midoriya had handled it skillfully. He'd given no information to the enemy. He'd done everything like a pro. Like he'd done it before. He'd acted heroically. But Chio had a bad feeling about it. He sounded like he was completely willing to get hurt or die. She knew he was reckless, but this was a whole other level. And not to mention the scars littering his admin. It was easy not to notice them at first, but they'd caught her eye while she treated his wounds. They weren't regular scars, either. They were large, and they looked intentional. Just what had that boy gotten himself into? Once Izuku was finally cleared to leave, he made his way directly to his room. The silence enclosed itself around him. It choked him, hurt him, made him think things he didn't want to think. The box of his emotions that he usually kept closed was shaking and begging to be opened. He needed to do something. Izuku thought back to his friends and supporters. He'd never had that before. He still had his mother. He had magic. So why wasn't he happy? Why was the past constantly scratching at his thoughts? He slammed the door behind him, panting. When had he gotten so worked up? He just needed to calm down. And then his eyes caught the note lying on his bed, looking like it was written on a spare piece of paper. See you soon. Shigaraki. Cold filled his chest, and Izuku fell to his own mind. Tensei carefully wove through the rock formations. His blue eyes were careful and searching. For what was the question? It was difficult to see in the cave, but the mare's eyes caught red. So much red. Tensei wanted to gag at the amount of blood strewn around the cave. At the height of the blood was another mare's limp body. Tensei didn't have to check for a pulse, for it was clear that they were dead. The one thing alive in the cave was unmistakable. A blood-red, five-pointed tail. The mare killer Stain, a notorious siren known for the countless murders he had committed. Stain. Tensei's tone was serious, a vast difference from his normal carefree nature. You've been found guilty under the jurisdiction of UA for first-degree serial murder and assault to MERS. A wicked grin came from the deep red-tailed siren. The points on his fingers and tail were prominent even in the dark lighting. Tensei Ida. Another corrupt mare. Of course. Tensei tried to remove the fear from his chest. It's just siren song. You have him cornered. There's no reason to be intimidated. Come peacefully and you won't be harmed. On the contrary, little hero, you're the one that will be harmed. A knife pierced Tensei's torso, and suddenly he couldn't move. Stain loomed above him. I'll go easy on you. You've been corrupted by outside forces. But that doesn't mean you're free of blame. So, just for good measure, I'll make sure you don't contaminate the seas anymore. Tensei felt a blinding hot pain on his spine, and then nothing. I'm just saying, Bakugo could totally cook with just his magic. Uraraka argued, her pink-marked cheeks full of seaweed. And I'm saying he's tried before. It blew up in his face. Literally. The fish just Midoriya mimicked an explosion. Guts all over his face. He wasn't happy. Uraraka giggled and Tenya smiled. He was lucky to have such good friends, truly. Midoriya was new, but that didn't make him less genuine. Tenya Ida? A mare Tenya had never seen before approached him cautiously. That's me. Uraraka and Midoriya's gaze had shifted to him as well. What seems to be the issue? I have a message for you. It's urgent. The messenger handed over a note before departing. With shaky hands, Tenya opened it. Tenya Ida? This message concerns the welfare of your brother, Tensei Ida. He has come under harm due to his career. It suggested that you visit him in the infirmary as soon as possible. Only family members are allowed currently. Recovery girl and the members of the UA infirmary. Tenya's mouth turned to sandpaper. Somehow, he managed to choke out the words, I have to leave. I'll be back later. Midoriya and Uraraka called after him, but he was already up and on his way to his brother. Tensei. Tenya rushed to his brother's bedside. Tensei looked so weak like this. He could hear every ragged breath that came from the hospitalized man. A few bubble tears escaped his eyes. He felt like he was 5 again as he murmured with a broken voice, Tensei. Tensei cracked his deep blue eyes open, breath still hoarse and uneven. Tensei, I'm here. You're going to be okay. It wasn't a question, but Tenya didn't dare state it as one. There was no way that his brother was going to be anything but fine. Tensei let out a weak chuckle that devolved into a cough. Ever the demanding one, aren't you? You have to be. Tenya's voice was loud and desperate, but he didn't care. Tensei's expression changed to one of sadness. My spine is broken. I won't ever be able to move my tail again. Tenya covered his mouth, reeling back. No, Tensei. Please, you can't dash. Sorry. Who did this to you? Tensei was silent for a second. A look of concern was pasted on his face. Tenya swam closer, putting his hands on his brother's shoulders. Please just tell me what happened. And with another moment of hesitation, Tensei started to speak despite his obvious reluctance. He spoke of Stain, of how helpless he had been, of how he was unable to do anything. All of Tenya's sadness turned to burning, insatiable rage and hatred. That damned Siren. Why do they have to destroy everything that the Mers create? Monsters, that's what they are, and Stain is the worst one of all of them. Tenya, don't do anything reckless. Tensei's voice was worried. He hurt you, Tenya longed to yell. He hurt you, and nothing is going to be okay again. Instead, he muttered, fine. But that won't stop me from avenging your loss. Izuku doodled on a spare sheet of paper listlessly. He felt like shit. His wounds hurt, his brain hurt, and the events that he bottled up were fighting in the back of his mind once more. He let out a breath and tried to focus on what Aizawa was saying, but the words went in one ear and out the other. He knew this lesson anyways. He could afford to think. I know your secret, little Siren. It would be a shame if he knew. See you soon. Shigaraki's words echoed in Izuku's mind. He put a webbed hand over his mouth in thought. I think if I wait too long, I won't get a chance to tell them myself. It's going to be hard, but I want it to be on my terms. The question is, who first? Jiro and Uraraka already know, and so does Kaken. I don't think I'm on good enough terms with a lot of the class to tell the truth, but maybe. His eyes wandered to Todoroki. I still don't know him well enough. He's a big mystery. His eyes caught Ida. But I bet Ida's a good choice. I don't know his opinion, per se, but he seems reasonable. I bet I could talk some sense into him, if he seems unsure. The school bell rang all too soon, leaving Izuku with the impossible task of coming out to his friend. Ida dash, Midoriya caught Tenya's wrist as he was on his way out of the empty classroom. I need to talk to you. Tenya kept patience, despite the swirling whirlwind of anger and emotion clutching his heart. He didn't want to be anywhere but near Tensei right now. If this wasn't important, I'm listening. You, them, maybe somewhere else more private? Midoriya stammered. It seemed like the world wanted to doom Tenya today. The boy slowly led Tenya to his room. The space was cozy and small, filled with primary colors and quite cluttered. If the mayor wasn't in such a bad mood, he'd have paid more attention to it. But he was a man on a mission, and such things as room design weren't important. I know this is gonna come as a shock, but Midoriya put a webbed hand over his mouth, seemingly unsure how to continue. Get on with it. Siren. Tenya's face paled. His heart skipped a beat and his brain desperately tried to catch up. He couldn't understand, he just couldn't. Midoriya was his friend, but he knew Sirens. His brother, his beloved older brother, knew Sirens up close and personal. Never again would Tensei swim alongside him properly. He stared at Midoriya but saw nothing. With unfocused eyes he couldn't help but notice how sharp the green-haired boy's teeth were, or the lull in his voice that begged and compelled Tenya to stay close and help. But it was a ruse. And suddenly he wasn't in Midoriya's room, but instead, a dimly lit hospital room as night took up the sky. Tensei's wails as a nightmare took over his mind. Begging, pleading for it to be over. In the alleyway as he watched his brother get torn to pieces, unable to save him. Yet here Midoriya stood before him, professing this while quaking, as if Tenya wasn't the one who shouldn't be scared. Ida's voice was low, and it scared Izuku. What? Is Siren? I didn't mean to hide it from you, really. I was planning on telling you, and today seemed like a good time, but I understand if this is too far. But Imsasorian Izuku was muttering again. He backed against the wall. Why did he choose an enclosed space? He'd gotten too comfortable. He should have remembered. Things didn't just go well for him. Ida's voice was cold. I should have known. With all your strange behaviors, you had to have been hiding something. And what are more untrustworthy than Sirens? I'm a fool not to have noticed. Izuku opened his mouth, then closed it, tears forming in his eyes. Don't make it worse. You're wrong. You're different. You hurt others. Give me one reason why I shouldn't tell the entire class how you've been lying to them. Ida bore down on Izuku, and the younger's breath hitched. The mayor looked like Kua. He struggled to speak, struggled to breath, struggled to do anything. Please don't hurt me. Don't tell them. Don't torture me by putting friendship within my grasp again. Don't make me relive these memories. Ida's lips tightened into a line, and he turned away. Fine. I won't tell them. But I hope the guilt of keeping this hidden eats you up. Izuku let out a shaky breath, still lightheaded. What's it? Can I do to make it up to you? You really want to make it up? Izuku nodded fervently. Start by killing the man who crippled my brother. Ida slammed the door without another word. Achiko had noticed when Midoriya and Ida had started acting strangely. One day they were normal, and the next they were cold towards each other. It was like a switch was flipped, and their usual friendliness was shattered. Unfortunately, that meant their lunch table was extremely awkward. Achiko watched as Ida glared back at Midoriya, who quickly turned away with a whimper muffled by a webbed hand. The tension was thick in the air. Achiko swore that it was too heavy for her to lift, even with her magic. She cleared her throat, determined to be the glue to stick them together again. So, how are you healing, Mido? The Siren gave a non-committal answer. It's still a little raw, but I think it's coming along. Ida didn't say anything, instead opting to glare at his lobster sullenly. Achiko felt her smile strain. Ida, what about you? What's new? Nothing. She sighed. They're hopeless. Well, wanna hear something funny that Sue told me earlier? Both boys looked up at her, and she started a long story that kept them occupied, and not hating each other. Even if they didn't like each other right now, Achiko was okay with being the glue that held them together, at least until they made up officially. And if they wouldn't naturally? Well, she's not opposed to helping. Izuku stared at the ground, preoccupied. He was worried as usual, but it was more immediate this time. Ida's words rang in his ears. I was lucky. He didn't hurt me physically, but it still hurts as much as any of Kaken's explosions. I should be used to being alone. I'm the problem. I'm always the problem. So why am I not used to it? Can I really make it up to Ida? Mido, can I talk to you? Izuku flinched at a hand on his shoulder. Oh, you? Uraraka. Sure. What happened with you and Ida? The truth of the situation bore down on him once more with all the weight of the deep ocean. He might truly lose Ida if he didn't act and fast. Oh, just in argument. His mouth burned. He longed to tell her, but he stopped himself. Uraraka's brows furrowed. About what? That's no normal argument. You can't tell her. She'll take Ida's side. She'll hurt you. Follow the rules. Izuku waved his hands in an attempt to dispel her worry. Nothing really. The angelfish mare didn't seem satisfied with the answer, but she knew better than to press. Izuku had enough to deal with. What's going on with you and Mito? The question caught Tenya off. I wish I knew to. He's not like Stain, but all sirens are liars. If he were different, he would have told the truth from the start. It's complicated. Uraraka sighed. Obviously. I was hoping to understand the situation a bit more so it would be less jumbled and all that. You conversed with him, too? Don't change the subject, Ida. I apologize. Revealed a truth to me that I am honor-bound not to repeat. My only advice is to stay away from him. He's not what he seems. Tenya looked ruefully at his hands. Not what he. Oh, did he tell you? Uraraka wasn't frowning. On the contrary, a large grin sprouted on her face, only dimming when she seemed to remember that he was upset. Depends on what he told you. I cannot repeat it. Well, I don't want to betray his trust either. Is it the same thing? How am I to know? Did he tell you about, what he is? Uraraka raised her hands in a vague gesture. Do you have any idea how little that narrows it down? Tenya gave his friend a deadpan stare. What kind of mare he is? Or, well, not mare. Tenya's eyes widened. He really did tell you. How long have you known that he was a siren? He saved me with his song. I knew from the beginning. Uraraka was smiling. It made Tenya sick to know how both of them had been conspiring against him for this long. Of course he did. Damn siren, Ida muttered under his breath. Ida! The female mare was obviously upset. He really isn't bad. He just wanted Dash. No, I'm done listening to you. No, I am finished talking about this. Tenya knew he was being unreasonable in the back of his head about all of this. Still, he was hurt that his best friends had been hiding such a major secret from him for so long. Besides, Uraraka didn't even know if Midoriya was really good. What if he was an imposter, trying to gain trust? It didn't make sense. None of this made sense. Ida was going to sleep. Izuku packed up first aid, a couple notes, and a small knife, just in case. Hopefully he'd only have to use the notes, but it was better safe than sorry. With a quietness picked up only by years of practice, he closed the door behind him. Moonlight illuminated the spires, which were unnaturally quiet compared to the daytime, where schools of Murs would flit around here and there. But he needed to go out when it was this desolate if he wanted not to be caught. This wasn't just his friendship with Ida at stake, it was also the reputation of all sirens. Stain was infamous for being one of the evil sirens that tainted all siren kind. He needed to do this. Where are you going? Izuku spun around, putting his hands up defensively. Two-color eyes bored into his. He didn't think anyone would be up this late, especially Todoroki, who looked like he got plenty of beauty sleep. Not even going to question that thought. Izuku stared warily at Todoroki, reading his body language. It didn't seem aggressive, so he did the easiest thing. Told the truth. I'm going to do the right thing and stop the mare killer Stain. Don't try to stop me. His voice was surprisingly steady for the nerves that clattered in his veins. Okay. Todoroki replied simply. Okay. I trust you. You've given me no reason to do otherwise. You're my friend. Izuku flushed slightly, clearing his throat. That was surprisingly easy. All right. Well, I'll be going then. But, Todoroki started, I'm coming with. It's not safe out there, and I want to be there to stop you from being killed like last time. I'm not letting you bleed out in my arms again. Izuku opened and closed his mouth a few times. He didn't know what to say. Somehow, Thank you for that. I really appreciate not dying, but I have first aid this time. Didn't seem to fit. Yeah. They sat in an awkward silence for a moment. What's the worst that could happen? You can see come. Todoroki smiled slightly. The moon illuminated his skin, and even with the scar, he looked absolutely flawless. Izuku looked carefully down at his bag to avoid the bisexual panic he knew was coming on. Stain, you're going to fight a serial killer. Now's not the time for thinking about these things. Right. Let's get going. Shoto could tell Midoriya hadn't been sitting around for the past few days as soon as they got going. He seemed to know exactly where their enemy, Stain, Midoriya had informed him, was likely to be. It was uncanny and, frankly, impressive. Everything that Midoriya did seemed to be strange and impressive, but his recklessness was clear in the scars littering his torso. Shoto couldn't help but wonder if there was something more behind that. He would end up getting himself killed one day if this pattern continued. Shoto wouldn't let that happen on his watch. Eventually, the green-tailed mare pointed to a cave and mouthed here. Shoto nodded and peered in. Sure enough, a red-tailed siren sharpened his knife. The stranger let out a chirp of a note, and against his will, Shoto let out a gasp at the otherworldly sound. Stain looked up and made eye contact with him. In a second, the cave flooded with ice. He's in there. He saw me. Shoto couldn't muster any other words. Midoriya only nodded and turned towards the cave entrance. A moment later, Stain burst through it, blood staining his torso. Looks like I have company. Didn't anyone ever tell you surprise attacks are dishonorable? And you? Stain's gaze was toxic, focused only on Midoriya. Why are you teaming up with this one? He's a mare. You're only making things worse for your kind. Our kind. Shoto looked between Stain and Midoriya. The pieces took a moment to click together, but once they did, understanding flooded through Shoto. He's a siren. Midoriya backed away, curling into himself, but his expression remained steely. He refused to look at Shoto. You're not helping his sirens either. Stain's eyes narrowed, and the man bared bloody, sharp teeth. I'm making the world better. You might act like you're brave, heroic even, but I'm the only one getting rid of corrupt mers. The ones who harm without reason, exploit those lesser than them, or see those different than them as worthless. All you do is stay with them in hopes to not be scrutinized. You're weak. Shoto glanced over to Midoriya. So he really was a siren? It was surprising, sure, but the tone of voice he had used when he said it was concerning. Perhaps that was why he hid it so long. Shoto would have to ask. I'm not weak. Not anymore. Mare killer, you're the reason sirens are seen as evil. I agree that some mers are corrupt, but killing isn't the way to deal with it. They're still mers. Midoriya stood strong, and Shoto couldn't help but notice that his stutter had faded to nothing while he spoke against the other siren. Very well. If you have chosen to ignore my warnings, then you're no different than them. With that, Stain rushed towards them, knives flashing in the moonlight. Tenya couldn't sleep. All he could think about was Midoriya and the way he had taken his siren status. Was he really in the right? The more the night went on, the less he was sure. So hesitantly, he left to make his way to his friend's classmate's room. He tapped lightly on the door. It was rude to intrude at such a late hour, but Tenya couldn't stand another moment of restlessness. He just wanted to work this out. No answer. He called Midoriya's name quietly through the door, still to no answer. It seems that he would have to do things more personally. Carefully, quietly the door creaked open, and Ida peered in, only to come face to face with nothing. Midoriya wasn't there. A small note laid on his bed. To whomever this may concern. I've gone to deal with personal issues. I'm bringing down the mare killer. If I'm not back by afternoon, assume the worst. It's a dangerous mission, but I have to do this. No one forced me to do this. This is by my own choice. Keep my mother safe if I don't return. Hopefully, this letter won't have to be read. Izuku Midoriya. Tenya stumbled back, and the only thought that filled his head was that he did this. He'd been so caught up in his own grief and anger, he hadn't thought about how Midoriya felt. And now he'd taken Tenya's words to heart. I didn't mean it, no, and no. He looked around for the faintest trace of where Midoriya might have gone. The location where Tenya had been crippled came to mind. It was a long shot, but he didn't have any other choice if he was going to make it in time. "I'm coming, Midoriya." Blood seeped out of Izuku's cheek. Stain sang too quickly, and he couldn't block it out. Now he was immobile. He was helpless as he watched his friend fight the killer. "Todoroki! Leave me, you have to go. He can't die." Todoroki cut him off while he sent another barrage of ice at the mare killer. "I'm not leaving you here. You might be a siren, but you're my friend." Stain took advantage of his preoccupied position and swung a knife at him. Todoroki barely dodged. The knife took a lock of his red hair with it. Izuku clamped his mouth. He wouldn't convince Todoroki, and he didn't want to distract the mare. The more the fight went on, the more hopeless it was looking. Todoroki was starting to shiver and become slower. Why isn't he using his fire? Paralyzing song filled the water. Todoroki went down. Everything it had been useless. He should have convinced Todoroki not to come. He should have gone alone. Izuku's death might be worth nothing, but Todoroki had a whole life ahead of him. And now, because of Izuku, it was gone. He longed to reach out, do something, but he was utterly frozen. Worthless. It had been his name so long, and yet he'd forgotten it was true. "I'm sorry, Todoroki. I really am weak." Tears spilled from his eyes. Stain loomed above him, knife gripped menacingly. And then he stopped and turned to something Izuku couldn't see. "Midoriya. I'm here." Was Ida? Why was he here? Didn't he hate Izuku? What did he want? Another one, Stain growled under his breath. Whoa. Another little mare to try to defeat the big bad siren. "You're a nuisance. You've already harmed my brother, I won't let you harm my friends." Ida's voice was raw and emotional. With the little time that Ida had bought him, Izuku could feel the siren's grip releasing him. He coaxed his muscles to relax. Once he was sure he could move, he burst from the sandy seafloor. His body lit up with the power of one for all. It was over before Stain knew it. Stain went down. Shoto watched his friend with wonderment as he worked in restraining the mare killer. The attack had been precise and powerful, and frankly, Shoto was impressed. If he'd ever had doubts about Midoriya's loyalty after Stain outed him as a siren, they were gone. Now that Stain was unconscious, he felt like he was able to move. Shoto joined Midoriya in tying up the man, and asked the question that had been weighing on his mind since the start of the fight. "He's not your father, is he?" Shoto asked the question cautiously. Izuku put his hands over his mouth and let out a muffled strain of giggles. "Oh, All Might, no, he's not my dad. Is this going to be a thing for you, Todoroki?" Shoto crossed his arms. "I was just curious. You seemed so intent to stop him, I figured it might be personal." He saw Ida's face contort into guilt. "That was my fault." Midoriya turned, seeming to read Ida's face. He waved his hands in front of his face in a panic. "No. Sure, what you said convinced me to go after him now, but there were more reasons. I'm tired of him affecting the views of Mers on the topic of sirens. He creates a bad reputation. He who hurts others. I couldn't let that pass. That didn't make it okay for me to say those things. I was horrible to you." Ida hung his head. Midoriya only smiled sadly. "Don't worry, Ida. It wasn't the worst I've had, not by a long shot. I've already forgiven you." Ida clenched his fists for a second, then rushed forwards and enveloped Midoriya in a tight hug, face overwhelmed with grief and regret. "I'm so sorry. I was blind, I took out my anger on you. Nothing I could do in 100 lifetimes could make it up to you. No, I could never make it up to you. I deeply apologize to you, and I hope I can deserve to be called your friend again one day. You're one of the bravest people I've ever met, siren or otherwise." Midoriya's composure was lost, and he let out a silent cry as he hugged Ida tightly back. The moment was lost when a throat cleared behind the three. A quick head turn revealed their homeroom teacher, looking eternally tired. "I need an explanation. Now." Izuku never knew why his mother looked at him the way she did when he was little. She'd put him to bed, then stare at him with a look of strange pity before closing the door. She never knew he saw, but he always did. She'd look like she wanted to say something, and then close her mouth before Izuku could question it. It was strange, but surely it was something normal for a mother to do? He realized he was wrong when he turned 5. Kaken. Izuku flitted around his friend as their mothers watched on peacefully. Katsuki grinned wide and pulled Izuku into a tight hug, eliciting a giggle from the seaweed-headed smaller child as he struggled to escape the embrace. Hiya, Deku. Hey, that's mean. It was a clear joke, and Katsuki responded in turn. Well, develop your magic and then you'll go back to being Izuken, K? Izuku beamed. K. Both of them scampered outside, giggling like mad. Soon enough, they fell into a rhythm. Katsuki practiced his magic, and Izuku watched on in wonderment. The little pops that came from Katsuki's hands were stunning. Absent-mindedly, Izuku began to hum an old song that his mother taught him. The song was an elegant one, his mother clearly adored it. It was the first song your father ever sang to me. He had such a talent for it, she'd say, and then lapse into a soft tune unlike any Izuku had heard before. 7 seas, so beautiful, hypnotic and surrounding. How I long to feel its pull. Deep secrets are confounding. The songs that may all pull me in are not worth just ignoring. And though at death it may begin, my love shall be outpouring. He made sure to hit each note, and in his own voice it was almost as if the waves themselves came to life around him. The humming became muttered words, which became whole, soft lyrics. But when he'd finished, the sounds of the explosions had deafened. Something wasn't right. The fish all around him had stopped, and so, too, had Katsuki. The blonde stood ramrod straight, but there was a lifelessness in his eyes that scared Izuku. Kaken? Kaken, what's wrong? Izuku lightly tapped Katsuki with a sharp finger, panic creeping into his voice, and the blonde let out an exclamation, shaking his head as if to dislodge something. With a hoarse voice, he shouted, "What the hell was that?" Izuku reeled back. "You're not supposed to say that, Dash. You think I care?" Trying to change the subject. "Why did you do that?" Katsuki leaned near Izuku, who only blinked. "Did I do that? Was that my magic?" Fizzling happiness filled his core. Was it finally here, after all this time? His own power, after waiting so long. Something that was special and unique to only him. "I have to tell Mama." "You're a siren, stupid. That's not magic." "A siren?" Katsuki crossed his arms. His tone was derisive. "Deku, of course you don't know what that is. It means that you're evil." The warm feeling left Izuku all at once, leaving a chilling emptiness. "What? I'm not evil. I can still be good, right?" "Nope. Sirens are always the bad guys. You're a siren and you can't change it, so you'll always be bad." But tears welled in Izuku's eyes. "I don't want to talk to you anymore. You're even worse than a Deku. You're a monster." Sobs pushed past his throat as Katsuki swam away, taking his friendship with him. "Mom." Inko turned around with a confused look, but when she saw Izuku's tearful expression, she leaned down sympathetically. "Oh baby, what happened?" She gently wiped off her son's face. "Ketsu said I was a siren, and that Izuku hiccuped, that I was evil." He dissolved into wails. Inko paled, the look taking its place in full force. "Oh, honey, there's a few things I should have told you earlier." Sirens were a strange species, Izuku soon came to realize. His mother only told him the basics, that they could control others with their voice and that they weren't treated very well, but Izuku was determined to know more. Siren notes for the future #1. In messy handwriting, he copied information from a thick book onto the blank sheets of paper. Sirens sometimes come from the upper world. When a sailor is drowned, they have a chance to be turned into a siren, but not always. It depends on the water and the siren who drowned them. Evil sirens can decide to let the human die, but if they want they can turn the dead human into a siren. It's not good. Was it how Dad became a siren? The book didn't like how more sirens can be made. Means that sirens can be made from babies or death. He stared down at the writing, frowning. Nobody told him anything. He just wanted to learn about his species, And even the books, which were supposed to teach things, withheld information. He sighed and flipped the page. Izuku, now 11, carefully stayed out of sight while he wrote. The third notebook was a well-kept secret. Katsuki and his lackeys didn't like it when he wrote in front of them, if his destroyed notebooks were any proof. I often feel cooped up when I don't sing for a while. Is this normal? Should I ask Dad if when he comes back? Mom isn't a siren, she doesn't know. I don't want to worry her. Maybe it's just a me thing. Izuku muttered a tune under his breath, careful to keep it quiet enough to where no one would hear. It became hard to breathe when he didn't let out his song for a while, so he found solace in the times where he was alone and could bother nobody. Apparently, he wasn't quiet enough, because an explosive hand hit the back of his head a second later. Izuku turned quickly to cower under the glare of red-eyed Katsuki Bakugo. The blonde's blue guppy tail had changed to a mesmerizing white and orange striped wonder. It was ironic, Izuku mused, that every trace that they were once friends was now gone. Shut the fuck up. Nobody wants to hear your dumbest singing. Izuku shrank back, carefully holding his notebook. Kak and I was just dash. Stop fucking stuttering. Spit it out. Tears formed in Izuku's eyes. He was tired of Katsuki bossing him around. You're the reason I do it, the siren spat coldly. Maybe if you got a shred of decency, I wouldn't have to stutter. It came out louder than he intended, but Izuku was unapologetic. He'd been tortured enough for something he couldn't change. A strange mix of emotions covered Katsuki's face, the predominant ones being rage and disgust. What the fuck did you say to me? I said that you're an Asho dash. A blinding pain hit Izuku's chest before he could finish the sentence. He reeled back, breath coming in gasps that didn't provide him any relief. Katsuki was talking, his hands sparking, but it was fuzzy. He could see blisters forming at the spot of impact. His raw flesh contacting the salt of the water was agonizing, but he wouldn't provide the satisfaction of screaming. A few words came through his bleary pain-induced headache. Have you learned your lesson? Izuku let out a choked sob. He nodded. Good. Shoto was worried about Midoriya. The boy always seemed so happy, but in his sleep, he thrashed and cried out. He wouldn't have noticed if they hadn't been hospitalized after the stain incident, of which Aizawa had not been happy about, but now it was all he could think of as he laid awake. Midoriya let out a short gasp and clutched his chest, and that's when Shoto knew he had to step in. He gently called out the boy's name, and when that didn't wake him, flitted over to the boy's bedside and softly put a hand on his shoulder. The siren let out a panicked sound. His eyes fluttered open. The grip on his chest didn't leave, and Shoto could see the outline of a starburst-shaped scar. Sorry for waking you. You looked like you were having a nightmare. Midoriya's voice was hoarse. Thanks. I was. His words were interceded by a short groan of pain and a tighter grip on the starburst scar. At Shoto's questioning look, he just murmured, just scar pain. It happens. Oh. Heat usually helps with mine. Shoto blinked owlishly. He'd had no idea Midoriya dealt with these things too. He held out his left hand hesitantly. Midoriya accepted it. Shoto could feel the boy's heartbeat, quick but not unhealthy as he warmed the skin. That does feel nice. Thanks. Midoriya gave him a little smile, and it made Shoto's own heart flutter for some reason. It's no problem. They sat in silence for a second, before Shoto asked a quiet question. Where did you get it, if you don't mind me asking? Midoriya's smile turned sad. I don't mind. It was Kakakin. Who? Bakugo. Katsuki Bakugo. Shoto's mind reeled. To think he'd once cared about the blonde. It made him sick, seeing all the starburst-shaped scars that covered Midoriya. All this time, he thought he'd gotten away from those who used their power repulsively, but even here. He can't do this to you. That's not just inhumane, that's evil. The words burst out of Shoto, but Midoriya just looked down. It doesn't matter. He just caught me singing and, well, I'm not allowed to do that. Not with what I am. Shoto felt for the siren in front of him. He'd never understood another as much as he did now. It was all he could do to try to make Midoriya understand. It does matter. He hurt you. Why do you care? The outburst wasn't angry. It was desperate, as if everything that Midoriya had learned about his place was suddenly being shifted. I shouldn't have prodded for so much without giving some of my own. I'm like you. I'm not a mare either. I'm half human. Izuku watched, starstruck as Todoroki pulled back his hair to reveal the rounded ears of a human. Things clicked into place at an alarming rate. All he could muster was a squeak of confusion. Your dash. Todoroki nodded carefully. I never knew. I shouldn't have dash. It's fine, Midoriya. I don't mind. It was never really a secret, I'm just not open about it. Todoroki shrugged. Izuku felt his pointed ears burn. Oh. Izuku was hyper-aware of the hand warming his chest. And though I may not know about your experiences, I do know how it feels to have someone more powerful than you that controls you. Controls me? Does he know about Kaken's blackmail? Izuku cautiously bobbed his head for the half-mare to continue. My father wasn't a good man. He was human, and one who had mastered his own fire magic at a rather young age. The human mom magic? That's so rare. I mean there's sometimes dormant magic inside humans, but even then they can spend their whole life mastering it. Chow dash. Izuku put a hand over his mouth to stop himself from muttering. Sorry. Continue. Todoroki smiled softly for a second, but it dropped quickly. He was fueled by ambition. He strove to create the greatest magic user this world had ever seen, greater than even the Mare King All Might himself, through his bloodline. But so few humans had magic, let alone explored it, that he couldn't find a suitable human wife. So he fished one from the sea. My mother, an ice user. He took her as his wife without her consent. He tried 3 times to have a child with both sides of their magic before I came along. And in his eyes I was the perfect heir. Capable in land and sea, with both types of magic to match. His fire took to me, to the point where it can even be used in water. He trained my brother, to death. He drove my mother to insanity. I'll always remember how she scarred me with frostburn because of the mental stress he put her under. Escaping was the best choice I could have made, and even now, I refuse to bring his plans to fruition. I'll never use his fire. Todoroki's voice was wavering with emotion by the end of it. Izuku's heart ached for him. Todoroki, it seems silly to compare us. I am glad to know what you went through. And Izuku took the hand off his chest. It was still warm with traces of the boy's magic. He gently unfurled the hand as he spoke, putting his own comfortably in it. It's hard revisiting the past. But I think that you see yourself as just an extension of his ambition when you're so much more. It's not his magic. It's yours. Don't live your life in the shadow of that monster. Live it as your own person. Because you're you. And I think that's pretty great. Todoroki's wide bicolored eyes met Izuku's, wonder-filled. He smiled and beautiful, warm, red flames started to flicker across his arm. When Chio went to check up on the boys in the morning, she saw them leaning against each other, sleeping peacefully. And well, if she let them sleep, that was nobody's business but her own. When Izuku finally returned to the classroom, he was swept up by a wave of well-wishers. He flushed as Uraraka gripped him by the shoulders and made him promise that he would never do anything like that again. Kirishima only laughed. Man, you have the worst of luck. A villain, a siren, what next? A sea monster? We have some work to do if you're gonna live till the end of the year. Don't encourage him. He might end up, ribbit, going after a sea monster himself. Tsuyu put in dryly, giving a wry smile. I'm not that bad. Izuku waved his hands in front of himself. I wouldn't dash. Didn't you already go for that one sea monster that was gonna hurt Raka, though? Hagakure interjected smugly. That's the different. Sure it is. Mina wiggled her eyebrows. Sounds to me like you need to be guarded. Izuku looked between them. This is some kind of conspiracy, I swear. Listen, just because I get involved in some dangerous things dash. What if we took turns guarding Midoriya, as team building? After all, I don't think a lot of us know him super well. Siro's suggestion caught Izuku off guard. He blushed furiously and tried to stutter out an excuse, a response, a denial, anything, but the others were already nodding along and putting in suggestions. Everybody calm down. Aren't we getting ahead of ourselves? Ida's voice was loud, and everyone took it as the cue to become quiet. Izuku silently thanked the stars for Ida, at least before the sailfish mare put a hand up in a chopping motion. We need an order and a set time period if we are to do this. Izuku buried his face in his hands. Team building game rules. Everyone gets an hour with Midoriya over a series of days. Class order applies. 1. Lima. 2. Ashido. 3. Ashritsu. For Ida. 5. Hirarka. 6. Ojiro. 7. Kaminari. 8. Kirishima. 9. Koda. 10. Sato. 11. Shoji. 12. Thing. 0. 14. Tokoyami. 15. Todoroki. 16. Hagakure. 17. Bakugo. 18. Shinso. 19. Yaoyorozu. I'll go earlier if that's all right. No making Midoriya uncomfortable. He can choose to leave or stop at any time. Follow the rules. Keep it appropriate. No getting Midoriya into danger. Izuku looked at the board with a bemused look. Why did I agree to this? Because you love us, Uraraka replied without skipping a beat. Yuga didn't know Midoriya very well. That much was a fact, and one he was determined to change very soon. After all, he was the first person. And what better treatment for bonding two souls together than a makeover? Come, monsieur, we have work to do. He took Midoriya's scarred hand in his. Yuga's trademark smug grin was set widely on his face as he led the green-haired boy to his spire room and shoved him in. Midoriya looked a bit nervous, if the fidgeting was any indication. Do you plan to do? I plan on making you look absolutely fantastique. Get in that chair, would you? I'll get the supplies. It was a long time until they were done, filled with small talk and chatter about their backgrounds and interests. Yuga noticed Midoriya tended to be a bit evasive, but it hardly mattered. And you admire your parents, non? Don't nod your head, I'm applying the eyeliner. My father was from, another sea. Near the Americas. Yuga finished the wing, perking up. What a coincidence. My mother grew up in the seas near Europe. That's why I can speak French à la perfection. Oh wow. I've always wanted to learn some more human languages. I only know snippets of English and Japanese, since my dad spoke those fluently. The hour went on much like that, and by the end of it, Yuga was sure that Midoriya was perfect inside and out. My turn. Mina's pink tail fins fluttered with excitement, light filtering through the webbed part of her tail as she swam above him. Her eyes lit up with mischief as she planned to turn the shy green-haired mare into a dancing machine. So what if she was a tiny bit overexcited? This was a chance to finally know the enigma that was Izuku Midoriya. Aoyama did look a bit disappointed for his time to be over, but he'd get over it. The boy let out a yelp as she dragged him along, explaining the plan all the way. Okay bitch, you and I are going dancing. Midoriya didn't have rhythm, which was the first thing that Mina noticed. He was disjointed and shaky, never quite getting into the beat as Mina tended to do. Nonetheless, she promised to herself that one day he would be able to dance. One day. Oh well, at least Mina knew him a bit better now. Tsuyu watched Midoriya carefully as he swam towards her. He'd clearly had a makeover, courtesy of Aoyama. The makeup seemed more subtle than he usually went for, but it fit. It's your turn, isn't it? He wrung shaky hands. I think this whole ribbit thing is silly. Only went along with it because I wanted to ask you something. Tsuyu motioned for him to sit. This would be a complicated conversation, but she was sure she had the finesse for it. Is I it? Now or never? You're a siren, aren't you? Tsuyu watched all the emotions flash before his face without urgency. It was best to keep calm in situations like this. Cautiously, fear written on his features, the siren responded, What would you say if I said yes? Tsuyu smiled. Nothing except that you're a pretty bad liar. You may have fooled the others, but I have younger siblings. I kept waiting for you to tell me, but you were slow even with your closest friends. Midoriya blinked warily. You won't tell the others? I'm not a snitch. So you shrugged. Besides, Ribbit, it's clear that you have emotional baggage with it, Ribbit. I don't want to be a part of that. Midoriya smiled, and for the first time that Tsuyu had seen today, it reached his eyes. Izuku enjoyed his time with Ida and Uraraka. They'd taken their turns together and decided to just talk to him for the full hour. About being a siren, about Stain, about their childhoods, likes and dislikes. Ojiro's had passed quickly as well. The two-tailed mare had set out trying to teach Izuku martial arts, but it ended with numerous questions and remarks about Ojiro's tails and the magic and movement behind it. Izuku wouldn't admit it to anyone else, but these activities were actually really fun. He was glad he said yes. Denki grumbled to himself at Ida's rules. I was going to snoop around Mr. Aizawa's office, but now that's off limits. Oh God, I still need to do my homework. Nah, that can wait until later. Where's Midoriya? The eel mare peeped into the class spire, and sure enough, Midoriya was there, scribbling along at a worksheet. Oi Midoriya. Where's my time? You can't get rid of me that easily, Denki joked with a grin. Midoriya spared him a wide-eyed glance, and immediately Denki could tell that the makeover was Aoyama's doing. Oh, sorry, I should have warned you. I needed to take a break to do homework, and it slipped my mind. I would say that you could join me, but I don't want to waste your time. Denki laughed. Don't worry about it, dude. My plans got ruined anyways, so it's not a waste of time. I gotta do my homework too. But I can't say that I can help much, since I'm stupid. Don't say that about yourself. Why, you're plenty smart. Midoriya put his pencil down. His tone was earnest. It's not that big of a deal. Clearly you've never seen me in class if you still think I have any brain cells left. I still think you're pretty smart. Dude, do you know how many FS I have in math? J, just because you learn D differently doesn't mean you're D-dumb. I'm not a straight student either. There are a lot of mental disorders that can be impediments like ADHD or dyslexia or autism. It really just depends. He devolved into muttering under his breath. Denki rubbed his neck, unsure what to think. Really? I mean, either way, it was just a joke. It's not that serious. Midoriya's pupils widened in shock, not unlike a cat's. It was odd, but Denki didn't want to ask about it, since he was probably already supposed to know about it. The less he asked, the less dumb he seemed. The green-haired mare put his hands over his mouth. I'm sorry, I didn't may have mean to ramble. Just forget I said anything. He mumbled something to himself under his breath that Denki couldn't catch, but the tone was self-depreciating. Denki was all too familiar with this thought process. He wasn't good at being serious, but for Midoriya, he would try. It's not a problem. Now what were you saying about mental illnesses? That seemed to get the freckled boy talking again, and with his help on homework and self-reflection, Denki left his session with high spirits. Ijiro liked to know people. He liked to understand them and make friends with them, and he would even go as far as to say he was good at it, if being friends with the infamous Katsuki Bakugo was any indication. Only, there was one student he couldn't seem to understand. Midoriya. Nobody knew much about him, but he seemed to be sweet and shy, not unlike Koda. So Ijiro tried his damnedest to win the boy over with jokes and smiles. It worked, to some extent, and they could solidly be called friends, but Ijiro could tell there was a wall locking him out, a secret that came between them. Now, Ijiro wasn't a nosy person by any means, but it was itching away at him, niggling in the back of his mind whenever he talked to Midoriya. He would ask Uraraka or Todoroki or Ida, but it was Midoriya's secret to share. So he would find out from Midoriya himself, wouldn't he? And what better way to do it than some one-on-one time? What's up, Midobro? Ijiro's white shark teeth were on display as he grinned. Hi, Hiroshima. Midoriya gave a small, shy smile. Sorry, It's a bit later than I usually do get up. I didn't mean to keep you waiting. Ijiro looked up to the sea above them, taken aback. It's before dawn though? How early does he get up? No problem, dude. I just woke up too. They started off with a few rounds of sparring in the early light. It was amazing how confident Midoriya was in battle, despite his recklessness. Even that was getting better, as Midoriya had learned to control his power without breaking himself earlier in the year. Soon enough, the green mare had Ijiro beat. Man dash, Ijiro spoke between pants. I still have to get stronger to beat you, huh? You're so manly. Midoriya laughed, wringing his hands. Why, you're a hard-up opponent. Give yourself some credit. There was a lapse in conversation as both of them caught their breath. It was broken by Midoriya, who carried a wistful tone. I really like us sparring actually. Seems a little strange to be honest, but it kind of slows down my thinking so I can articulate my thoughts a little better, and makes me more confident usually. He let out a self-depreciating chuckle. It sounds silly when I say it. Nah, I totally get that. Winning or keeping pace with a spar can really make a dude confident. It's helped me a hell of a lot. Midoriya's eyes widened. He straightened with a confused look. What? You always seem confident. I really admire it actually. Ijiro paused for a second. Midoriya admired him? The other boy was already so strong and brave. Ijiro didn't hold a candle to him, confidence or no. No way, dude, I was super insecure when I was younger. It took reinventing myself to seem halfway courageous. That makes even more impressive. Midoriya paused for a second, a strange look on his face. Did you say that you weren't born with Red Sea coloring? Ijiro blinked, then burst into laughter. Did you think I was some kind of naturally red shark or something? Midoriya put his face in his hands, blushing red. I thought it was part of your magic. Maybe Ijiro didn't get all the way through to Midoriya, but he'd broken more of the boy's walls down. He was a patient guy, he would find out eventually. Izuku was getting worn down. It was fun, but there were so many people. He wasn't that popular, surely? It was just, he didn't even know. All this was confusing, he may as well just go along with it. Feeding fish with Koda, baking seagrass pastries with Sato, analyzing Shoji's magic, singing very carefully, with Jiro, pranking Ishido with Siro, meditating with Tokoyami, studying with Yaoyorozu, it all went by in a blur. It was getting dark by the time he reached Todoroki's turn. He put his face in his hands for a second, then knocked on the door. I stepped out of my bounds 2 days ago. How am I going to apologize for butting into his business when I went too far? I was muddled and it was dumb and, oh all might, what if he hates me? Especially since I fell asleep on him, oh no, oh no. Todoroki answered the door, looking as stunning as usual. He smiled slightly at Izuku and gestured for him to come in. Shoto couldn't help the light feeling that bubbled inside him when he saw a certain Siren outside his door. Come in. Todoroki dash. Shoto. I don't mind, after dash. Shoto gestured awkwardly. Oh, call me Izuku then. You hate me then? Midoriya? Izuku, call him Izuku, asked cautiously. Shoto's eyes widened. Why would I hate you? Did I give off that impression? I need to ask Momo about social cues again. We went to... I shouldn't have acted so presumptuously. I acted like I knew everything, but I just spoke without thinking. Izuku carefully gripped his arm with sharp fingertips. I needed it, though. What? I've been caught up in my past and living in my father's shadow for too long. You shattered my worldview, but it wasn't in a bad way. I needed it shattered. Shoto found that he was speaking the honest truth, not just trying to console Izuku. But I forced my issues on you dash. I don't mind listening. It was the least I could do. I fell asleep on you. Izuku covered his blush with his hands. Shoto tilted his head. So? You were warm. Izuku managed to blush harder. I could never hate you. Not after last night. You're my friend. Can I hug you? Shoto smiled softly. Sure. Izuku couldn't focus on Hagikure's gossip. Next was Katsuki. They hadn't let him skip, insisting that it was a group activity, and eventually he just shot Izuku a sneer and agreed. Earth to Mito? Hagikure waved a near-invisible hand in front of his face. Izuku could only tell that she had done it because of the water displacement. He snapped to attention. Sorry Dash. You're out of it today. What's going on? Sorry, I just zoned out. What were you saying? Izuku was focused outwardly, but inwardly he was spiraling into anxiety. Izuku hurried away from the Spires after his hangout with Hagikure. He couldn't deal with Katsuki, not right now. He was just feeling better about himself, he was just starting to realize what Katsuki did was wrong. He couldn't face his tormentor. But the universe hated him, and an explosion clipped his shoulder. Izuku covered his mouth to stop from crying out. Hey Deku, where do you think you're going? Don't we have to bond? Katsuki grinned in a way that made Izuku's stomach drop. Please get out away. I so want to dash. Izuku couldn't seem to get his words out. Oh, but what's the fun in that? This is supposed to be a game. Are you scared, damn Deku? If it means you're not going to hurt me, then yes. I am. Izuku sank to the ground in defeat. You've enough. Please, Ju, just let me go. For a split second, Katsuki's eyes widened as he registered what Izuku said. It was gone as quickly as it came. I'm glad you've learned your place, but I'm not letting you go that easily. Despair filled Izuku. The others will be suspicious dash. You think I care if they find out you're a siren? Oh, Mr. Izawa. Cheesy cares dash. Katsuki gave a crowing laugh. If you tell that hobo, things will only get worse. Why are you forgetting all the lessons I've given you? Do you need a refresher? He's right. Damn it, even with magic, I have no power. Izuku covered his face with his hands and waited for a hit to come, but it never did. What do you think you're doing? Izuku cracked open an eye. Shoto had Katsuki's raised fist gripped in an icy hand. I knew you were terrible in the past, but I figured you had become a marginally better person. I was wrong. Get away or we're going to have trouble. Katsuki scowled and yanked his hand away from Shoto. God, Deku, I didn't know you were so weak that you needed someone always stalking your weak ass to make sure you're not fucking dead. Shoto didn't waver. Go away. Surprisingly, Katsuki actually followed the order. Izuku let out a breath, his shaking slowly fading. I thought it had stopped. Shoto was the first to speak. He helped Izuku up, looking concerned and sad. What? The abuse. I thought he had stopped doing that to you. Izuku was oddly aware of Shoto's warm hand in his. Yes, mainly. Izuku looked down. At least this was just an outlier. It's not gone if it still happens. Izuku, you have to tell Mr. Aizawa. Shoto's tone was pleading. He won't care. They never do. Kakenmother's maybe awful bu, but he's right. Shoto frowned. I don't think so, but if you don't feel comfortable, I won't stop you. You should get to sleep, things will look better in the morning. Izuku smiled half-heartedly. Yeah, they will. Hitoshi wasn't stupid. He'd noticed how Midoriya had actively sought him out and tried to be his friend. It was strange, but Hitoshi didn't really care all that much if some do-gooder golden boy mare tried to win him over. He was a little frustrated when word came out that he had to spend an hour with the stuttering nuisance, but what could he do? Midoriya peered at him. You have anything in me mind? Nope. Hitoshi straightened his paperback book curtly. All right. And just like that, Midoriya was beside him, writing in his own book with carefully suppressed muttering. Hitoshi looked over at him in confusion. He hadn't expected that. Seems like you can take no for an answer. Midoriya looked up. Shinso, I'm not in the mood for that. If you will want me to go, then I will, but dash. Okay, That stuttering was getting on Hitoshi's nerves. Oh, poor you. I distinctly remember you saying something about going beyond my comfort zone, so that's hypocritical. God, just because you're a mare with perfect magic doesn't mean the rest of us are beneath you. Get off your high horse. I'm not. Midoriya snapped, and wow, Hitoshi had never seen him get mad before. It was something. Not what? On a high horse? A mare with perfect magic? What the fuck does that mean? Shinso snorted, but his tone lacked the bite it previously had. Izuku put his hands over his mouth, going pale. He'd blurted it out, now this was the consequence. No, nothing. I spoke without thinking. I thought you always did that. Don't back out on me now. Izuku bit his lip. Not Himare. A siren. Well, apart. Half, but it's more common, and I have the song. Oh cool, me too. Izuku blinked dumbly. And once more. All his lips could formulate was, what? He's a siren? The fuck, he doesn't look like one at all. Wait, is that why his eyes dilate like mine? And the gills on his neck, and wait, does this mean he went through the same things? Could I ask him about my notes? Oh my god, I actually have someone near me who's kind of like me. I'm a quarter. Have been since birth, obviously. The song mixed with my magic, so the brainwashing works with vocal cueing and intent. Even being a part isn't all that. I was treated pretty rough when I was a kid. What about you? Izuku shared his past with Shinso. The mocking from Katsuki, the questions he'd always had, the notes he kept that he hid under the guise of notes for my future, and his admission to UA. Let me get this straight. Bakugo's a dick, you only discovered that you had magic from your mare's side less than a year ago, and you don't even understand half of what you are? Shinso looked repulsed on Izuku's behalf. That's about it, yep. Wow, that sounds awful. Wanna chill together for a while? You can ask me questions if you want. I'd like that. Class is in session. Aizawa's gaze swept over his students' faces. A few of them were still distracted, but that was to be expected. Instead of demanding all of their attention, he simply began to speak. During this week, we aim to look into your futures. As far as I know, the majority of you endeavor to be guardians. I do not doubt that you all know what that is, but I'll recap. Guardians are the protectors of the colonies. They have free use of their magic, and in return, they're expected to guard the MERS of the colonies from outside threats. It sounds like a dream come true to most, but I'll be frank, it's a hard path. A noble one, but not as rose-tinted as most MERS make it out to be. It's a difficult sea to swim. Izuku jotted down the notes in his schoolbook, eyes wide. He hadn't put much thought into his future, and especially now that he was treated decently. He thought he'd fade into obscurity, but now that he was thinking about it, if he had the chance to save others like him, he would take it in a heartbeat. In the next few days, we'll be taking time aside to do simulations of what it means to be a guardian, and training for those who decide that they want to embark on that career. Quiet celebration echoed through the classroom for a second before Aizawa quieted it down and started a lecture. At dinner time in the Spire, Class 1A was more joyful than Izuku had seen them in a while. I can't believe Mr. Aizawa's actually offering training. Ashido pumped her fist into the air as she tried her best to smile, despite the fact that her cheeks were full of algae. God, I've wanted to be a guardian since I was little, but it's always, Mina, quiet down, or, Mina, you're too young to be thinking about things like that. Akai, it gets so annoying. Zero swallowed the shrimp he had been chewing on. Same here. I've always wanted to be a dash. Whatever, Tapeface, I'm going to be the best guardian in any of the oceans. I'll beat down a monster any day of the week. Katsuki's hands sparked in tandem with his feral grin. Izuku snorted quietly. I thought guardians were supposed to save people. I don't see you doing much of that. What the fuck did you say? Katsuki was in Izuku's face before he could say a word. Izuku went pale. Oh, said that out loud, didn't I? Spiders. Wow, who knew that Midoriya had some sass? Kaminari didn't seem to notice the animosity. He's not wrong, Jiro said drily. She rolled her eyes. Bakugo has the personality of an unpleasant pufferfish. Suddenly, Katsuki was letting go, focusing his energy on yelling at Jiro. Izuku could feel his hands shaking, but when he looked up, Jiro sent him a sly grin. There will be 3 teams in this activity, each composed of 6 or 7 members. Team A is composed of Bakugo, Midoriya, Kaminari, Kirishima, Hagakure, and Mina. Team B is Ida, Tsuyu, Sato, Shoji, Shinso, Todoroki, and Tokoyami. If your name wasn't called, you're Team C. That includes Uraraka, Jiro, Ojiro, Aoyama, Koda, Yaoyorozu, and Siro. Get in your teams, Aizawa instructed. Izuku looked around at his team, heart stopping when he noticed Katsuki glaring at him. Shit, he's probably mad about earlier today. Please don't let this be a fighting activity. Hi, Izuku, hi Mina, hi Denki, hi Eiji. Hagakure grabbed Izuku and Ishido's shoulders, causing a flinch from the former. Hi, Hagakure. Izuku smiled shyly as the others who had been named greeted her as well. Katsuki let out an annoyed tch but said nothing. Aizawa spoke up. Your time could have been better. Now, for the activity. One team will be the bottom dweller, another the guardians, and the third are hostages or mers in need of saving. Each team will have the opportunity to play each role. A. Your hostages. B. Your guardians. C. Your bottom dwellers. Take your places. Katsuki was shaking in frustration as he laid down in a stream of fake blood. This wasn't fucking fair. He wasn't weak. Not like the bitches that made his team. I deserve to be in the action. If that bottom feeder of a teacher thinks that he can pin me here as the damsel in distress, he's damn mistaken. He was alone in the recess of the reef that he'd been hiding in. Distantly, he could hear the other teams battling. That's where he needed to be. What are you doing? Invisibich hissed from wherever she was. Katsuki didn't care. Mr. Aizawa ordered us to stay put. Katsuki scoffed. His order is bullshit. I'm not gonna fucking sit around. The other mayor wasn't satisfied by that answer. You can't just hijack the rest of us. He's your teacher. And? Watch me. You greedy dash. A hand grabbed his shoulder. Whoa, let's not fight. We'll be part of the action soon enough. Katsuki prepared to yell at the mayor who interfered, but the words died in his throat. Ijiro stared at him with a pleasant smile on his face, and all Katsuki could muster was a small tish. Whatever. I'm still not gonna take it lying down. Invisibich was not pleased by that. Katsuki couldn't see her expression, but he could feel her irritation. But let her stay mad. Guys? Is that supposed to be part of the practice? Dunt's face caught the three's attention with a finger pointing at something behind them. There, a deep purple vortex started to swirl. Deku and Raccoon Face also peeped out of their hiding spots to catch a glance. And then a mare swam out, and another, until the water was filled with strangers. The sounds of fighting had stopped, replaced by a concerned murmuring. The portal closed with the emergence of one last mare, one who had matted pale blue hair that looked like it hadn't been combed in months and red eyes startlingly similar to Katsuki's own. The last stranger turned to face their group, but not towards Katsuki. Towards Deku. Shigaraki met his eyes and smiled, and a numbing cold coursed through Izuku's body. He choked on his breath. What do you want from me? He wanted to plead, but he was tongue-tied, stuck in place just like his fight with Stain. Shigaraki. He managed to shout the word, piercing the water with the sound. The bottom dweller only sneered wider. You remembered my name, Izuku? Don't call me that. Izuku spat at the older man. Holy shit, that's the mare that almost killed you, right? Kirishima's tone was horrified, but all Izuku could do was grace it with a nod. That's right. I'm here to do it again. Shigaraki swiped his hand towards Izuku, barely missing his bicep. What's going on? Is this part of the training? Oh my god, are those bottom dwellers? Aizawa's voice rose above the din. This is not a drill. Those bottom dwellers are real. Don't panic and get back to safety. With that, he put on his signature yellow goggles and turned to the bottom dwellers, despite the look in their eyes that promised they weren't afraid to kill. The students heeded his words, but Shoto paused. He looked towards the rapidly approaching Mers. Izuku was still out there. He wasn't safe, and the magic that created the vortex looked dishearteningly like the one that had whisked Shigaraki away a few weeks ago. If Izuku was harmed like that again, and Shoto wasn't there to help. "Todoroki, get to safety!" Ida shouted. "Izuku's out there. I can't leave him. I know he's in danger, but you can't help him. This isn't a drill, a fluke, or a coincidence. This is an organized attack. I can't let you get killed." Shoto clenched his fists. "I won't. And I'll make sure Izuku isn't." He swam for it before his friend could utter another word. "I'm coming, Izuku." Izuku dodged and weaved around the bottom dweller's attacks. Adrenaline pumped through his veins, and for a second, it was as if it was just a spar with Kirishima before reality kicked in again. He could hear Katsuki, Hagakure, Ashido, Kirishima, and Kaminari all fighting beside him, but they were too far away for his comfort. Shigaraki lunged at him again, hands outstretched, and gripped his wrist for a split second. Pain erupted at the base of his hand like fire. Izuku yanked his hand out of the touch with a hiss of agony. "You're just an eel. Fucking annoying. Always slipping from my grip. That really irritates me." Shigaraki scratched his neck frantically, scowling. "I'm not going to just let you kill me," Izuku panted. "Not like somebody I know." A wicked grin appeared on his opponent's face. "Kill you? Oh, I have something much worse in mind. Compress." Izuku didn't have time to turn around. His vision went black. Shoto saw the moment Izuku was turned into a marble. One moment he was talking to Shigaraki, the next he was palmed by a masked bottom dweller. "Izuku!" Shoto's cry was choked, but it still attracted unwanted attention. A blue stream of fire passed his ear. "Where do you think you're going, Shoto Todoroki?" The source of the question was a black-haired mare with a disfigured torso. The man's upper body scales were bound in place by metal rings, but despite them being melded to his skin by the hoops, they were still peeling away like they weren't part of the stranger's body, showing raw pink skin between the spaces. The most noticeable were the scales under his jaw and the ones under his eyes, which created a look of utter wrongness. "Who are you? How do you know my name?" Shoto clenched his fists, anxious to get to Izuku but unwilling to turn his back to a threat. "You should know. I may go by a different name, but I'm still the same boy you once knew. My pseudonym is Dabi, but I'm sure you remember my real name." Shoto backed away, ice forming in his right hand. "This is a trick. I couldn't have known you when I was younger. Because Endeavor kept you locked up in the tank." "I know, Shoto. I remember it. I was there." Shoto clenched his teeth. He was warier by the second. Why did this stranger know so much? "You're using some sort of magic, then." "I never knew you, and I don't intend to, bottom dweller." "You can lie to yourself, but not to me, Sho." Dabi's expression was close to unhinged. "Stop calling me that." "No. Old habits die hard. Endeavor must be upset with your disappearance." Shoto sent a burst of ice his way, one that Dabi easily dispersed with blue tongues of waterproof flame. The younger of the two still kept his hand up defensively, eyes definitively trailing the other. "I still don't see how you survived his training. Maybe he went easy on you. You were the favorite." Shoto's breath hitched. Memories of the years of abuse crowded his mind. Easy was a cruel, incorrect word to use, but it niggled its way into his brain. "Shut up. You don't know about my life." Dabi broke into laughter. "What did you do to him?" Mina was yelling, but she hardly cared. The bottom dweller, Compress, showed no outward emotion because of his mask, but his voice was smug. "Don't worry, Midoriya is safe." With a flourish of his hands, a blue marble appeared in his hands. "I just used my magic on him. It doesn't hurt." "Give him back," Toru demanded, barely restraining herself from attacking the masked mare. Mina glanced towards her, thankful for the backup. "That I cannot do." Another flourish and Midoriya's marble was gone from sight. "The League of Dwellers has plans for him." He didn't spare another word before dipping out of sight into a reef crevice. Mina gasped in outrage. "Toru, Denki, Ket, get him back." Ijiro and I will deal with Krusty over here. She barely saw them nod before turning back to her opponent. Alright bitch, it's just us. Give me your best shot. Shigaraki's eyes darkened. You'll regret that. I don't know about your life. You don't know about mine. You choose not to. You knew. You knew the whole time, and you didn't intervene. You're on the wrong side, Shoto. Shoto wove around a stream of fire. Last time I checked, I wasn't attacking innocent Murs. The world is evil. You, of all people, should know. Dabi's tone was dark and intense. And you're only adding to it. You say you knew how bad father was, but you act as bad as him. I'm protecting myself. That man acted out of pure hatred and selfishness. He had no motive other than to create a perfect vessel, and he failed. Both of us are just failed creations, so why do our goddamn actions matter when this world is rotten, inside and out? You're Dash. You were made for nothing and you do nothing. I should have killed you to spite father when I had the chance. Dabi spat with venom. He shot another wave of fire. Shoto didn't bother to fight back. Katsuki raced after the bottom dweller with the marble. He may hate Deku, but he hated the bottom dwellers more. The League couldn't get away with this if he had any say in it. Invisibitch dash. Hagakure. Whatever. I'll distract him, you sneak behind him. Dunce face dash. Kaminari. Whatever. When I give the signal, shock him. Got it, does? Both of his allies gave a confirming grunt. But, take your places, 'cause the show's about to start. He waited for a second, then shouted, Hey marble fucker. Compress didn't seem to be too pleased, but obviously he didn't take Katsuki alone as much of a threat. He was itching to prove him wrong, but he restrained himself. What is it you want? I want a one-on-one. The winner gets the marble. Katsuki smirked. Nice try, but I don't fall for that one anymore. I don't have an excess of pride. I can live with being called a coward. Compress turned to go once more. Shit. I need to distract him. Katsuki intercepted him with an explosion. I'm not letting you go that easily. He glanced towards Hagakure in the corner of his vision. She still wasn't in position. You're a pain in the neck. Compress made the same movement that he had done towards Deku, and Katsuki had the sense to duck away. Another glance from the corner of his eye to Hagakure. I try. Katsuki smirked and dodged another wave of magic. With a triumphant feeling, he saw Hagakure slip into place. Alright, fucker, I'm done with your dumb-ass monologuing. Now. A shock zipped through the water, right into the unsuspecting form of Compress. Kaminari gave a thumbs up. Katsuki rolled his eyes but returned it. He and Hagakure searched the bottom dweller and found a blue marble under his tongue. I wish he'd just put it in his coat. Hagakure shook her hand off with a wince. It doesn't matter. Look, Deku's already reforming. Sure enough, the green-haired Siren took his form with a deep intake of breath from his gills and a yelp of alarm. Then he looked around in confusion. Oh, how dash? We got you back. Kaminari hugged the still disoriented Deku. The latter looked down at the slightly charred man below him in mild concern. Don't worry about him. It's not over yet. Stop sitting on your asses and get out there, Katsuki reminded them with a scowl. Wait. Look, it's the Guardians. The battle turned its tide after Ida had brought backup from the colonies. Several bottom dwellers were apprehended with a few of the students injured. It was clear the other side had to retreat soon enough. The last bottom dwellers left were Shigaraki and Kurojiri, held off by Kirishima and Ishido for long enough. Izuku and the rest of the team joined up with them to help shoo the last two bottom dwellers out. You're the problem. Every fucking time. Blood streamed from Shigaraki's neck as he frantically itched at it, one hand pointing to Izuku. The bottom dweller lunged at the boy once more, only restrained by Kurojiri. The pale-haired man growled, his red eyes were dangerously narrow. I swear when I get my fucking hands on you dash. Tamura Shigaraki, we must retreat. There are too many guardians. Kurojiri created another vortex behind both of them, but Shigaraki slapped his hand away. Your classmate isn't as perfect as he seems. You all love him, but he's not what he appears to be. He's a siren. Kurogiri yanked Shigaraki into the portal before the man could get another word in. Gazes bored into Izuku, making him feel small. How he envied Hagakure. His heart thumped as the silence stretched on. Shigaraki crowed with laughter. He allowed himself to be pulled away. That wasn't true, right? He's a liar. Midoriya has magic. He can't be a siren. Kaminari was the first to speak, smiling unsurely. Yeah, it had to be a lie. We won't let him tear apart the class. Hagakure put a fist up. Don't worry, we won't believe a bottom dweller over you. He's stupid if he thinks we'll fall for that. Ashido put on a smile of false confidence. Who? You on a siren, right? He had to be lying. Kirishima was practically pleading. Izuku put a hand over his mouth. How was he supposed to respond? He'd meant to ease them into the idea, and now. Katsuki spoke before Izuku could. The only liar here is Deku. He's a fucking siren, has been his whole life. It's pathetic how he begged me not to tell you. The gazes got sharper. Disgust from Ashido, hatred from Hagakure, fear from Kaminari, betrayal from Kirishima. All aimed towards him. His chest constricted. Those looks meant pain. Izuku couldn't go through that again. Shido said something. Izuku couldn't make it out, but she reached towards him, and all he could think of was to flee. She caught his wrist before he could get away. Let me go. Please. Izuku barely recognized his own pleads. Oh no, you are not getting away that easily. What the fuck? You never fucking told us and now you expect us to be all okay with it while you run off to who knows where. Well, I'm not okay, Ashido spat. Izuku's tongue was heavy in his mouth. I didn't mean dash. Spit it out. Stop acting like you're the victim here. You're not. He cautiously watched for an attack. He was going to tell why 6 people already knew. Sure you did. God, you sirens are all liars. Get away from me. Mina practically threw his hand away. Izuku cradled it close and backed away. Instead of getting away, he bumped into another person. What's going on here? Aizawa crossed his arms. His red gaze surveyed the students' faces. He's a siren. Kaminari pointed towards Izuku without remorse. We can't have someone like that around. You gotta kick him out. I don't have to do anything, Kaminari. I already knew about his origins. UA is a non-discriminatory colony, sirens or no. It's his choice to disclose it, and it seems like he was right to keep it hidden if you react like this. Return to the colony and take some time to think over your actions. Izuku felt his hand fall into Shinso's. The larger part siren led him back to the colony without a word. He would have been grateful, but all he felt was numbness. Whispers passed through the waters of UA. Did you hear about Midoriya from Spire 1A? He's a siren. I heard he works with the bottom dwellers. I heard he paid Aizawa off. I heard he's a master of manipulation. Creepy. Izuku heard them all. And he knew they were wrong. He knew this was the exact reason why he never said a word of this to the crowd. But he also knew they were right. He supposed he should have seen this coming. There is no rest for the wicked after all. Shoto frowned. It was all wrong. Dabi was never part of his plans. However that monster knew him, he didn't want to know. And yet, barely repressed memories bubbled and burned in the back of his mind, evading him whenever he reached for them. Natsu and Fuyu, he called them. Even if it was some twisted magic, I never call them that. Maybe he was telling the truth, but how could that be? He said, we were failed creations. What does that mean? There was Tuya, but no, don't disrespect his memory like this. It was magic, it had to be magic. Shoto stared at his left hand. Izuku had made it sound so innocent. He felt guilty at how much he detested it after the encounter with the bottom dweller. His own magic, now loaded with negative connotations, and he couldn't bear to use it. Not anymore. How he had ever been able to, he didn't know. Shoto! A voice roused him out of his thoughts. Turned to her, blinking. What is it, Momo? The black-haired mare had been his first friend when he escaped his father. She taught him all about ocean life and mare culture. She'd seen some of his hardest times and still cared about him. She'd been there when he came out as gay. She'd been there when he found a home at UA. She'd been there when he woke up screaming in the middle of the night. She was precious to him and he liked it that way. I'm having a bit of a hard time understanding something. I thought you might be able to help. Momo gently clasped her hands in front of her torso. Sure. What is it? Whatever she had to say was a welcome thought from his thoughts. Midoriya, he's a siren. Did he tell you? Momo looked surprised for a second, then looked away. Something like that. Then he is. What's your question? Well, aren't sirens supposed to be evil? Manipulative? Devious? You must know all the words that describe them. Momo gestured vaguely, looking a tad confused. Midoriya isn't, right? He's none of those things, Shoto confirmed. Momo seemed even more confused. How? But I don't understand it. By all means he acts like a mare. He has magic, he's not evil. He's not even a smooth talker. For goodness sake, he has a stuttering problem. I beg to disagree with the smooth-talking one, but that's beside the point, Shoto mused. Does every mare act like Bakugo? Or Ida? Or you? Momo flushed slightly. That's different. That's personality, not species. Sirens have that too, but just in case you don't believe me, aren't humans supposed to be evil as well? Do I look evil? Are Fuyumi and Natsuo evil? That's different too, Momo protested. They're half mare. So's Izuku. And even if he wasn't, he would still be as sweet and kind and friendly as he is now, because his subspecies does not define what he acts like. Does that make sense? Shoto asked calmly. Momo nodded slowly. It does, actually. Thank you. It'll take a while to get used to it, but it makes sense. She turned to leave, then looked over her shoulder. Shoto? You should probably check on Midoriya soon. With that, she was gone, and Shoto couldn't help but wonder what the suggestion meant. His first mistake was letting it slip his mind as he delved back into the mystery of Dabi. Izuku slowly swam through the colony, his form small. Anywhere he swam, mers parted and gave him a wide berth. Otherwise, they accidentally pulled his tail or used their magic or jostled him. Izuku didn't say a word. Eyes down, shoulders hunched, head low. They're superior. Don't talk back. Where do you think you're going, Siren? A mare jeered from somewhere to his right. Shut up, Ozuru, he might curse you. His friend elbowed him in the ribs. Oh, Akihiko, are you dumb? It's not like he's gonna fight back. Izuku only sighed. Things were bound to get back to normal eventually. It had been too peaceful for too long. This was just a natural extension of events. Now all he could focus on was getting to his training with Yagi without getting too hurt. It would be a pain to have to swim all the way back to his room to get bandages. Thankfully, the rest of the swim passed in only minor shoves or jeers. It wasn't as bad as it had been outside the colony, but his side still ached from a particularly aggressive mare's jab. Young Izuku, I was worried when you didn't arrive on time. How are you, my boy? Yagi's smile was blinding. The mere sight of it managed to ease part of Izuku's worries. Sorry. Just, got a late-est start. Izuku averted his eyes. Why, yes, yesterday, it was a long day. Even without looking, he could tell Yagi's smile had faded. I'm sorry, my boy. I wish I'd been there to protect you and your classmates. I cannot believe that I stood by while such a devious force was at play. It's not your fault. Nobody knew Dash. Izuku was waving his hands frantically in front of his face in a stopping gesture, but the fin on his elbow hit a fresh bruise on his side. He flinched despite himself. Yagi seemed to notice the bruises that Izuku had been adamant on hiding. You're hurt. I thought you went to Recovery Girl yesterday. Shit. Izuku looked down at his own scarred wrist, proof that he had been to the infirmary the day before. Dash. His mind went overdrive, trying to come up with the excuses that he gave to his mother so easily. This phone today, so yeah. You don't have to lie to me. Yagi's voice was soft and sympathetic, but Izuku could hear the hurt in his words. I know the marks of clumsiness, and those aren't it. Will you tell me what happened? I want to help. Izuku's chest felt cold. He pursed his lips. You can't help. I'm sorry. I never meant to involve you. Yagi's sadness and hurt multiplied in response to the tense silence. I see. I don't want you training in that shape. Izuku, I know this isn't your fault. You can talk to me about anything at any time. Izuku nodded minutely. I understand. Thank you, Yagi. He didn't wait for a response, turning away before his mentor could see the glisten of air in his eyes. I can't believe this. Mina shouted as she threw her hands against Kirishima's punching bag. I was goddamn dash. She punched the bag despite her already aching fist. Friends with him? He seemed so dash. Another punch. Genuine. Goddamn it. Her yell punctuated another hard fist against the fabric. She hissed at the pain that erupted in her knuckles. In a much softer voice, she cursed again. I can't believe it. I just can't. Ijiro was silent for a second, but quietly replied, Neither can I. Was his innocent act just a fucking lie? She smoothed out her stinging hand. And his stuttering? Am I that easy to manipulate? I still don't understand. He was just so honest. I looked up to him. I knew there was a secret, but I thought he could be no worse than Bakugo. Looking back, there are some things that add up too well, but I still don't understand. Maybe it's a misunderstanding? Ijiro sighed, cheek buried in his hands. You heard Bakugo. They've known each other since they were guppies. Bakugo said it himself. He would know. Mina felt a prickle of annoyance at her friend's naivety. She understood being in denial, but Kirishima was too lenient for his own good. Why would he even go to U.A? I don't know, for some sick satisfaction of tricking a bunch of fucking fools? I'm not a mind reader. All I know is the sooner he's gone, the better. Ijiro looked wistful. Maybe. It just doesn't fit. I thought I knew people. Sirens are unknowable. You never know what the truth is. Sorry, AG, but that's just the way the world is. The red-tailed mare went silent. The air prickled with negative emotions. Mina sighed and turned back to the punching bag. Izuku had avoided his class for a few days, but it was futile. None of his friends were around to pick him up a meal, and he was getting hungry. He had to face them eventually. Why not make it over food? They might be more merciful with full bellies. He gripped the handle gently, giving a silent prayer to whatever god was listening that he would get out of this unscathed. He would understand if they hurt him, but he didn't want a situation where Recovery Girl was needed. With a firm nudge, the door creaked. The main room was unusually quiet, but mutters still reverberated. Half the class sat on one side, half on the other, split harshly down the middle, like Shoto's striking hair. Had Izuku caused the rift? Sure enough, he could see nearly all his friends on one side, minus Shoto, but he couldn't see the bicolored boy anywhere. Ida, Shinso, Jiro, Ida, Tsu, and Uraraka all sat close together, joined by Momo, Aoyama, and Tokoyami. The rest of the class sat on the other side, most of them eyeing his friends warily. As he was noticed hovering at the doorway, the room fell silent. 18 eyes zeroed into him, their expressions ranging from relief to hatred. The tension was thick enough to cut with a knife. The Siren couldn't stand it, so he meekly murmured, You, hi? Go away. You're not welcome here anymore. Shoji was stubbornly looking away, holding the hand transformed into a mouth up. Jiro leapt to his defense. Don't talk to him like that. This is unbelievable. I can't believe you would outcast him like this. You know what's unbelievable? Hagakure shot back at her, lying and manipulating us for months. He's not manipulating ribbit anyone. You all are just bad judges of character. Tsu rolled her eyes. Or he's got you in his thrall. Did he brainwash you? Zero asked. He didn't brainwash me, he's my best friend. Uraraka hissed back at him. Ojiro looked confused and skittish. Why are you siding with him? He might hurt us. Voices overlapped each other as each person tried to get their own point in. Izuku felt sick to his stomach. He should have never shown up. The guilt of having polarized the class ate him up as the argument raged in front of his own. Diamond-shaped eyes. He's not innocent. Mina's voice raised above the chaos of the room, one finger pointing at Izuku. He's a monster. He's a fucking Eska. It always came back to that word, didn't it? Literally, it was the light of an anglerfish, but it went so much deeper than that. It was a word developed for sirens when they were killed for honor by humans. Its use had been mostly discontinued, but Mers and humans alike used it to degrade sirens. Izuku hadn't heard it for a long time, but he was a fool to think it would never be used on him again. Eska, the only scar he had hidden from everyone but the ones who had given it to him. Eska, the word carved on the back of his neck, just below the ends of his green hair. Eska. That was all he was, wasn't he? Just an Eska. Izuku turned and fled before anyone could comment on the sob he was choking on. The room went silent as Midoriya fled. Everyone had caught sight of his absolutely crushed expression. Hitoshi's heart ached for his classmate. Dude, even I know that's too far. Kirishima was the first one to speak, having the decency to look ashamed. Kirishima is right. There is absolutely no excuse for that type of language. You not only used a slur, you used it in front of a classmate of whom it applies to. Give me one reason I shouldn't report you to Mr. Aizawa. Tenya looked more upset than Hitoshi had ever seen him. Likewise, rage began to bubble in his own chest. Scowling, he made his way to Ashido, glaring her down. Where the fuck do you get off? Eska? Are you that low? He was fucking bullied and scarred using that word, and you have the indecency to repeat it. And for what? Some satisfaction for winning the argument? Your ignorance makes me sick. Ashido looked unsure and a bit guilty, like she was actually questioning her own actions. After a second, she straightened, her voice smaller than before. Why are you pandering so much to him? He's a siren, he probably told you that story. It can't be true. It doesn't make sense. Pandering. Hitoshi laughed mirthlessly. Bitch, I'm quarter siren. There's a reason I stick up for him, and it's because we've gone through the same shit from sapienists like you. It may not fit your pretty little worldview, but I don't give a damn. Grow some empathy for once in your life. I'm going to check in on Midoriya, who's probably reliving some unpleasant memories because you don't have a filter. Ashido was left staring as he swam out of the hall, anger still simmering under his skin. Oh Eska, I think you're forgetting something. A sharp voice jeered from behind 12-year-old Izuku. The latter turned around warily, hands held close to his scarred chest. I am. Nobuyuki, a tormentor peer of Izuku's, smiled too widely behind him. Teo snickered behind him as if he were witnessing a practical joke. Izuku's instincts screamed to run away. I don't think I'm missing anything. Whatever it is, you can keep it. Terror gripped Izuku as a hand gripped his arm. Teo's expression was that of a shark that had its prey squirming in its jaws. Oh, I think you need to remember, though. Remember, what? Your place, Eska? Nobuyuki crowed. Izuku was pinned to the seafloor at the speed of a sailfish's swim. Behind him, he heard Teo's magic activate, cruel claws that he had been subject to too many times. Let me go. Izuku squirmed desperately, but Nobuyuki refused to release his suffocating grip. You've been far too arrogant for far too long, Siren. You need to learn. Please, let me dash, Izuku gasped as a sharp pain hit his nape. One curved, deep line, far from what they usually did. The metallic tang of blood hit his nose, but Teo retraced it. Was he trying to scar it? Another diagonal line and Izuku refused to make a sound, even as Teo's claws burned white-hot on the back of his neck. As with the last one, he traced it again, too slowly for only creating a mark. There was no doubt he wanted Izuku to feel it. A third, jagged line placed a few centimeters above the other two tipped Izuku off to their intentions. A sinking feeling filled the siren's chest. They're writing on me. They're writing Eska on me. They're trying to make it scar. What did I do to deserve this? Too caught up in his thoughts, Izuku forgot to silence a whimper at the pain from another cut. Uproarious laughter and mocking jeers followed, but Izuku knew better than to defend himself. I have to get out. I'm losing blood. I can't have that word on my skin. I hate myself enough as it is. They may call me a monster or an Eska for the rest of my life, but I need to leave. Song is the only choice. Izuku took a deep breath, silencing the nurtured instinct to stop before he was hurt. He focused his intent carefully on the word, leave, and when the blade came down on his flesh again, he opened his throat to sing. But nothing came out. He tried again. No sound. Izuku tried every intent he knew, begging, pleading silently for any sound to come out of his mouth. Nobuyuki's smug grin invaded his vision. So your true colors finally come out, Siren? You wanted to brainwash us. You're lucky my magic is silence, or else I'd have Teo do much worse than put you in your place. Nobuyuki grabbed his cheek tightly. Izuku felt sick to his stomach. Got that, monster? The Siren stayed still, and his grip tightened painfully, nails digging into his chin and forcing Izuku's head up. Izuku could only faintly nod. The rest went in a haze of blurred color and burning pain. At the end of it, Nobuyuki and Teo fled with insults and threats of what would happen next time he forgot his place. Izuku tried to feel relief that they were gone, or anger that they had scarred him, or sadness that they treated him like barnacles off a whale's back, but all he felt was cold, searing numbness. I guess I'll have to wear neck accessories until my hair grows out, Izuku thought bitterly. The water was red around him, but he didn't care about getting up and going home. Hitoshi hesitantly lingered at Midoriya's door. He could hear faint, uneven breaths at the other side, like the Siren was struggling to breathe. He listened for a moment until he could no longer bear to do so, then gave a gentle rap on the sandstone door. Midoriya went silent on the other side, but did not answer. Hitoshi waited a few seconds more, then spoke. It's me, Shinso. It's stupid to ask if you're okay after what that bitch said to you, but I hope you're— The mare trailed off awkwardly, then picked up where he left off, holding up. Not hurting yourself, at least. None of this is your fault. He took a seat outside the ledge protruding from below the door. I told them off for you. Every mare whose opinion matters is upset at her. A sniffle and a wavering chuckle came from the other side of the door. It was a start. They're assholes, Midoriya. Listening to them is bad for your health, and so is caring what they have to say. They don't know you and they don't care enough to learn. They weren't there for you when you needed it, and they'll be lucky if you don't decide to cut them off entirely. This shouldn't hurt this much. Midoriya's voice was unstable and hoarse. What? Being called that? I've heard the word so many times. It used to be like a nickname for me. But now I hear it once and I just unravel. It's pathetic. It's not pathetic. Midoriya, that word is an actual slur. There's nothing pathetic about disliking. It's use. And so what if you used to be able to listen to it? The fact that you aren't now means that you're healing. A muffled murmur slipped through the door, but it was too quiet to make out. Can you let me in? I want to talk face to face. No. Not right now. I can't. I don't want to see others. Not even you. Sorry. Hitoshi shrugged. Alright. That's okay with me. Do you still want to talk? I just need to think. Midoriya's voice was more even, like he was glad Hitoshi understood. I'll leave. Can I get anything for you? Thank you, but I don't know. Tell me if you change your mind. There was no answer, but Hitoshi didn't hear any more crying, which was an improvement. Hesitantly, he left once more. And by the end of the night, there was a white fin tuna placed as an offering on Izuku's ledge. Mina flushed in anger and embarrassment. Why did Shinso have to say that? Now I'm confused. I was right, wasn't I? My instincts are never wrong. But, the traitorous little voice inside her head murmured, if he was right, then what? You would have only made Midoriya's issues worse, and then who would you be? Just a washed-up little fish who tangled up the net and for nothing in return but capture. The pink mare heaved an annoyed sigh and turned to her friends. Do you think that was a lie, or is it just more siren tricks? Ijiro looked down, regret shining in his air-slick eyes. Did you see the look on Mito's face? He told the truth. We messed up. What if he never talks to us again? Eiji, are you mad? Sirens. They're good at lying. Can't trust a thing they say, Toru sniffed. Unless you want to get manipulated again. Well, then I guess you can call me gullible, 'cause I think we were wrong in this. Eijiro's voice was strong, almost a shout. I knew he was innocent from the beginning, but I was too pathetic and cowardly to say it. I went with the majority, and what good did that do me? A broken friendship with a broken siren. We hurt him. If you're not ready to admit that, I don't think we can be friends anymore. Denki sighed. I dunno, Mina. I think I'm with Eijiro on this one. Midoriya seemed pretty genuine when I talked to him, and when you called him, it just gave me bad vibes. Toru looked between them. Well, fine. You guys can go and get brainwashed, that's fine with me. Don't come crawling back when you realize life isn't as caustics and corals as you thought. Mina looked between them. Well, that doesn't answer my question at all. What about you, Mina? Toru swiveled her head. What about me? Are you still on my side? Mina looked at the blank space in the water that made up Toru's form helplessly for a second. She said what was on her mind. I don't know. I just don't know. Izuku couldn't get that scene out of his head. Nobuyuki's face and Mina's face were indistinguishable, taunting and jeering at every second. Shinso's company had helped, but the immense guilt that the siren felt at dragging another mare into his personal drama stopped him from calling the purple hybrid back. So he was alone, other than the knocks on the sandstone door every 10 minutes, accompanied by someone asking him to come out and show if he was all right. He was so tired. Surely it was easier not to answer. And yet, he had no desire to think either. Contemplating what had happened and where he stood with his former friends clenched his heart painfully. He just wanted to lay down and cease to be. No pain for anybody. Just peace for everyone involved. What am I thinking? Come on, Izuku, stop thinking about things that can never happen and just distract yourself, the siren thought with a shake of his head. He fumbled for his notebook with the goal of doodling or researching to drown out his intrusive thoughts, but the notebook fell open to a well-used page. Such as the intent of the Homo sapien canticum, more commonly known as Esca or Siren, a curious thing indeed. Adrian Williams, Ph.D., in Sapiens, Humans, Sirens, Mers, and Magic. Mastery, Proficient. Times used, 345, most purposefully used intent. The leave intent is the spell I use the most to get them away for various purposes. Works best in stressful situations. Not mastered, but proficient. Imagine a magnet or a shockwave pushing the mare or monster away. Well, great, this sure helps me not think about my defect. Izuku rolled his eyes. If only there were an intent that could fix my life, because I don't think anything can patch it up now. Shota made another red mark on the paper in front of him. 76%. Ashido was smart, but she never bothered to study. She needed to work on that, if her test was any indication. He moved to grab another paper. Name, Izuku Midoriya. Ah yes, Shota's problem child, the one caught in the eye of Thursday's events. They had a few days off, courtesy of Nedzu, the dolphin in charge of the schooling system of UA. Personally, Shota didn't think that was near enough. Not for the sake of physical recovery, but for mental. Trauma takes more than time to recover from. They should be seeing therapists, not stewing in their own bad memories. Shota's thoughts were interrupted by a knock at the door. I'll get it, he shouted to his husband. Hizashi gave a sound of assent from another room. Shota's muscles ached from his injuries, but he ignored them in favor of seeing who it was. Sup, Dad? His son smirked. Shota absolutely refused to admit that he and Hizashi had basically adopted the siren by this point. Hitoshi, shouldn't you be not here? Shota asked with a quirked eyebrow. Yes, well, we have a little situation. My favorite, Shota remarked drily. Well, you adopted me, didn't you? Anyways, your class treated Midoriya pretty badly today and I'm worried he's having a breakdown. He won't answer the door to anyone. I barely got him to speak. That won't stand. I'll talk to him and the rest of the class. Hitoshi muttered something that sounded suspiciously like, called it. Shota didn't dignify it with an answer. Shota rapped his fist against Midoriya's door. And when he didn't answer, tried again. Still no response. Problem child, I know you're in there. I'll have to unlock the door if you don't answer it. A creak permeated into the open water. Shota could see Midoriya's pale face from the other side of the slightly ajar door. What dash? Mr. Kai, Aizawa? Why? The kid seemed anxious, as if he was expecting an attack at any moment. Some part of the light in his eyes had died. Shota wasn't an emotional mare, but he felt a tug at his heartstrings as he took in the siren's shape. Your classmates are worried about you. Shota took a seat on the floor as he spoke calmly. He had a feeling this would be a long conversation. Midoriya only laughed bitterly. I'm the son, of course they don't care. What about your friends? Hitoshi came to me because he was concerned about you. More people understand than you're giving them credit for. I don't know why. They care about you, kid. And so do the others, they just don't know how to take it yet. There's a disconnect between your kindness and normality and the stereotype of a siren that they learned about since they were guppies. And it stay that WA. I know how this goes. Midoriya was looking down, his fists clenched. I know it feels that way, but I promise you it will get better. This is the worst to come. Shota's tone was carefully even. I thought it was already supposed to be better. The every time I dared to think it might get better, I get hurt, or poisoned, or abused by my peers for something I can't control. Every day I tried to convince myself it would get better, and it never did. I'm not falling for that again. Not again. Midoriya's voice was desperate and sad, voice cracking at the last few words. He buried his face in his hands and let out a series of quiet, choked sobs. Oh shit. Shota had misread the situation, and badly. The full body flinches, the stuttering, the lack of self-worth, the distrust. He thought the kid was just anxious, but the truth was worse, painfully so. Do any of the perpetrators live in U.A? If so, I need names. This is a no-discrimination zone. Somehow, Shota's voice remained steady. Like the snap of a rubber band, shock and distrust replaced the sadness on Midoriya's face. His next words were so quiet Shota had to strain his ears. I wasn't supposed to push it dash. I didn't mean to say I. Never mind. You don't have to pretend to care. Kid, the anglerfish mare sighed, I'm not pretending to do anything. The siren's lips thinned into a bitter smile. Even if you do believe me, you can't do anything. I don't think is in his vocabulary. The starburst burns, the way he flinches around him, the complicated history between them, the way he pulls Midoriya aside. Your tormentor is Katsuki Bakugo, isn't it? Shota knew he was right the moment the words came out of his mouth. Izuku didn't trust easily. Not after his trust was crushed under the cruel fists of those he had known years ago. It almost guaranteed pain if he let down his walls in the past, so the present shouldn't have been very different. But somehow it was. He had friends now. Aizawa even said so. Aizawa. That was a situation, wasn't it? The dark-eyed mare said he wouldn't talk to Katsuki about his former behavior if Izuku wasn't comfortable and if he wasn't being harmed physically, but how true was that? It was said in earnest, but Izuku didn't believe the words for a second. It went against all he'd ever known. What he knew was fake smiles and empty words from the kindest of adults, and barely veiled abuse from the worst. Last time he'd gone against his own ideals, Kuwahara had racked his body with venom that sat like fire in his veins for weeks. So Izuku wasn't too trusting. He wasn't a fool. He'd learned his lesson. Except, apparently he hadn't. Apparently, Katsuki and Kuwahara and Teo and Nobuyuki still hadn't squashed his optimism, because he found himself wondering what if he can actually help? What if it's different this time? Izuku knew it was wrong, but he let himself dream, just for a little bit, that Aizawa would keep his word. Bakubro, you knew him best. Kirishima's puppy dog eyes were wide. Please at least try to get him? All of us have, he's not answering. Yeah, we just want to apologize, Kaminari put in as if it would help. For the last time, I'm not his fucking babysitter. He caused this shit by lying, he'll clean it up. It's not my fault people hate him. Actually it is. You outed him, bitch. Take responsibility. Ears fuck gave a deadpan stare from across the impromptu meeting in the dining hall. Alright, let's not fight. Come on, Katsuki please. Kirishima's face was wide and pleading, and Katsuki found himself blushing against his will. Fucking fine, just don't pester me when it doesn't work. A chorus of thank yous followed him. He didn't dignify them with a response. Pisach, acting like I'm the one to blame for the stunt Deku pulled at training. He went silent and shit, what was I supposed to do? The fuck's door was pressed tightly shut. He hadn't even noticed the fish on his ledge. Katsuki pounded on the door. Deku opened it a crack, but apparently realized who it was and tried to slam it shut. Too late. Katsuki had already grabbed onto the edge. Hey freak, what are you doing slamming the door on me? Deku looked like he'd seen a ghost as Katsuki shoved his way inside. You want to tell me why those fuckers are saying you're locking him out? Kaken, please Lilith. Ha. You really think I'm that weak? You're so much worse than you were before you. You never used to bitch and moan in your room when you got called an Eska. Does this mean you have to be put in your place again? Because I'll be glad to do it. Kaken dash. You want to fight back? I'll give you a fight. Katsuki grinned, palms creating flashes of light and swarms of bubbles in the tension-thick water. Please stop. Stop. Make me Eska, Katsuki spat. His sparking palm descended on the other boy, but it was caught by a hand crackling with green lightning. Deku threw Katsuki's hand away with unnatural force and pressed the sharp finger of his other hand against the blonde's chest. He looked angry and hurt, with tears of frustration decorating the corners of his green diamond eyes. Why, you know what? I'm not dealing with being your PU punching bag anymore. Go away or just kill me already. You obviously want to, and my life's been so shit already that I'm not protesting. Katsuki blinked. And blinked again. How was he supposed to respond to that? He'd always thought of Deku as unbreakable, the spire that stood even under the harshest of currents. And he'd envied the Siren for that. So he'd taken some sick satisfaction in being that current and trying to break the unbreakable. And now he was seeing that the spire he'd been slowly chipping away at was not as perfect as he thought it had been. There were cracks that he'd never even noticed, and he'd caused them. You don't even realize how much you've hurt me, do you? You never even stopped to fucking think about your actions. When you said I should kill myself, I almost did. And maybe I should have. I'm just a waste of a space, right? You're an asshole, Katsuki. That's all you are. Deku dash. You don't tell me. They just leave. Katsuki clenched his teeth in uncertainty and reached out. For what, he didn't know. Deku just turned his head away. I said leave. The command wasn't a song, but the pull of it was just as intense as one. Behind it, Katsuki could feel the years of heartbreak Deku had gone through. And he followed it, whether by his own will or Deku's. By this point, he didn't even care.